He is hydrating before the Evan Williams Bourbon Backyard broadcast tomorrow. I think they're still the sponsor. I think I credited that with the right people. So he has a public appearance tomorrow, so he gets the day off today. So the guy that quasi sort of sounds like JMV is filling in for him. Greg Rakestraw of the ISC Sports Network, of the Indy 11, of the Indianapolis Colts, and today, once again, of 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Hello, how are you? At Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. You can email the program to greg at 1070thefan.com. And, of course, the phone line remains the same at 317-239-1070. Obviously, from a live sports standpoint, the world has not been the same as it has been, like in, every possible case of the world possible being the same. It's not been the same, at least in this country, since, say, about March 10th, March 11th, somewhere in that vicinity. From a sports standpoint, we have had kind of a slow trickle of the returning of things. In May, it was racing. In June, it was golf. Locally, it became the Brickyard Weekend on July 4th. I referenced the Indy 11. They have now played a third home game at Lucas Oil Stadium since July the 11th. Well, obviously, one of the big boys in terms of all of sports, let me not skip Major League Baseball returning as of last Thursday and Friday, but clearly we all have our fandoms here in terms of Major League Baseball. But in terms of the local sports calendar, business is about to pick up. The NBA is back tonight. Our Pacers do not play until Saturday, but there are 2 NBA games this evening. There will be NBA on these airwaves, at least for a live game being played for the first time since March 10th, when the Clippers and Lakers play this evening. You can hear that with the coverage beginning at 8:30, courtesy of ESPN Radio, right here on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Pacers and Sixers Saturday night. That is, of course, a 7 o'clock tip-off. Mark Boyle will have the call at 6:30. Game, of course, from Orlando. The broadcast call emanating from right here. The man that will have the television call is Chris Denari. He'll be one of the many guests that will be joining us on the program today. It's part of the reason why I bring up to start the show that there is such an abundance of things to talk about now, because that has not been the case for the last, 4.5 months. Well, all of a sudden, business is picking up. There's a lot of topics that merit more discussion than I will give them on the show today. But I said, let's get as many guests on as possible, because these are all things I felt were important enough to talk about with you on the program. So in simple chronological order, here we go. Notre Dame for one fall is going to be a part of the ACC in football. They will play an 11-game schedule, 10 of those against ACC opponents. They already had 6 games against schools in which they are a conference rival of every other sport, I guess other than hockey, and along with football. Well, as of a couple of weeks ago, we thought, Notre Dame season's in trouble. They're not playing the Pac-12 schools. They're not playing the Big Ten schools. Well, they're going to be an ACC school. In fact, they will be eligible for the ACC championship this fall. That is assuming and hoping we have college football this fall. As we have learned, everything changes within the span of 5 minutes these days. But as the best laid plans are as of now, Notre Dame's a full-on member of the ACC for football for at least this year. The man that is their radio voice in basketball, hosts the coaches shows in both basketball and football. He's been a part of covering Notre Dame athletics for nearly 4 decades. My buddy Jack Nolan joins us in the next segment of the program. So it is rare for us to talk Notre Dame football at the end of July, but clearly there is no sense of time when it comes to sports these days. And given the fact it's rather significant news, I felt it was worthy of having a conversation about it with you today. So Jack Nolan joins us at 3:30. After that, we go from the most major of college sports to a small college conference. And earlier this week, and throughout the course of the week, you have seen small colleges in the area say, hey, these sports are playing, these sports are not. I wanted to get a friend of mine who is in the business to talk about everything that went into the decision-making process, what the last 3 or 4 months have looked like, what the next 4 to 6 months will look like. That's my buddy Jay Jones. He is the commissioner of the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference. If you're a fan or an alumnus of, had somebody in your family that went to one of Franklin, Hanover, Earlham, Manchester, Anderson, or Rose-Hulman, he is the commissioner of that school's sports league. Before he was the commissioner there, he worked for the NCAA. Figured he's a good guy to talk to about this. As the Division II, Division III, and NAIA landscape, every piece of the college sports real estate is being altered, dealt with, worked around, etc. But for the small colleges, that's even, it may not be as financially substantial, but it is substantial nonetheless. So Jay will join us coming up at about 3:45. You heard just leading into this program the replay of at least a portion of Dan Dokich's conversation with Kyle Neddenrip of the Indianapolis Star from a day ago. Where a day ago at about 3:15, Kyle runs with the story of, hey, they're going to recommend that Marion County high schools and middle schools do not play football, volleyball, or soccer until October the 1st. By 5:30, that edict or ruling had changed. And by this morning, it had been confirmed that that decision will be made 2 or 3 weeks down the road. That was on the heels of the IHSAA saying yesterday, basically, we will not be postponing or delaying the start of seasons. In other words, if the school and the local health officials feel it is safe to play, then you are free to play. High schools have been having limited conditioning workouts / practices for the course of the last 4 weeks. The majority of fall sports begin their official practice schedule leading into their season as of next week. So it's a good time to have a friend of mine on the show. He is the next commissioner of the IHSAA following the retiring Bobby Cox. He is Paul Neidig, and he'll be joining us at approximately 4:30. I've referenced already my ties to the Indy 11. Had the call of the Indy 11 win last night after their first and only loss of the season on Sunday. The boys in blue looked phenomenal at Lucas Oil Stadium a night ago. I hope you caught the match on either MyIndy or ESPN+. Indy 11 head coach Martin Rennie will be joining us at 4:45 on the show today. Mike Chappell, like he needs an introduction, the Dean from Fox 9 and CBS 4. We'll talk all things Colts and a training camp in which we have never seen the likes of it as to how it's playing out. Officially, it's underway, but as far as what it will look like, Lord knows. We'll talk about that stuff with Chappie coming up during the 5 o'clock hour. And I referenced Chris Teneri will be joining us at 5:30. I figured it's probably good to get the television voice of the Pacers on, on the day the NBA season restarts. Might be a good excuse to get CD on the program. So like I said, those are 6 different topics that all are of interest to me. I hope they are to you as well. Because of the fact that we are so guest heavy, if there is something that you want to talk about now, any of those topics, say, you know what, I've got a take on that, I've got a question on that, I've got a thought on that, feel free. 317-239-1070. Email the program, greg@1070thefan.com, or you can tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. Having Kyle on the show and the subsequent article that / column, I guess I should better say, that Greg Doyle has put out, I believe as of this afternoon, in basically saying you're ignoring medical opinion at your own risk, high school sports and the Indianapolis 500, as far as playing and or having in the neighborhood of 90,000 fans at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It kind of, I wouldn't say changed the course of the show, but it did kind of save me the trouble for it kind of explaining what I thought the timeline of events were a day ago. Because I'll give my buddy Kyle Neddenrip some dap here, some props. I think he does as good of a job as covering his beat as anybody does in town. And what he reported yesterday, I firmly believe was set to happen. And then enough phone calls, enough conversations, enough complaints came in where there was a change of course, a change of action. And the reason I will say this is that I didn't hear exactly word for word what ended up being reported about 3:15 yesterday and what necessitated me being on the show with JMV at 4:45 yesterday. But I had heard that something was coming. I had heard from a couple of different sources, hey, there's going to be a big announcement on Thursday. There's going to be a potential changing of schedules for numerous programs across the area because of recommendations coming out of Marion County. So I knew something was about to happen. I had not heard that it was going to be as drastic as potentially what was proposed and then potentially rescinded in the same afternoon, in fact. But I had that from a couple of different sources that, hey, you need to make sure you're paying attention on Thursday because something big could be coming down the pike. But again, because Kyle was on the show and because of what I read in Greg's story, I think it's now being kind of widely assumed, considered that what was reported yesterday at first was accurate. And then things changed throughout the course of the day yesterday. And again, what was announced this morning. 317-239-1070. At Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email the program to greg@1070thefan.com. The NBA is back tonight. And I am sure I am going to do what I have done with virtually every sport since, whatever the opening day for your sport has been, I have made sure to watch it. I have made sure to appreciate it. If you were listening to me earlier this month, at the start of this month, talking about the Brickyard 400 and Brickyard Weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, how I said, you know what? I've watched more NASCAR in the last 6 weeks than I have in the last 6 years. You know why? Because it's on. I did the same thing with golf when it started back up in June. I watched more golf in the month of June and into part of July than I had in many, many years, not counting major golf. By the way, major golf returns next weekend because the PGA Championship. And like the best thing that they could be doing is playing on the West Coast, which means it's going to be prime time to watch major championship golf next weekend. How cool is that? Then I did the same thing when the IndyCar Series returned. I did the same thing when MLB returned last Thursday and last Friday, and even have carried over into the last few evenings. Like hearing people lose their stuff about, having a runner put on second base, trying to speed up games in extra innings, or, heaven forbid the thought, if you have to play double headers, you actually play 7-inning games, which is how it's been done in the minor leagues forever, which is how it is often done in terms of college baseball. Sometimes they play a 9, then a 7. But I've watched a lot more baseball, and by baseball, I almost have to kind of like separate, saying, hey, there's Reds baseball and there's other baseball. I've been captivated by watching other baseball over the course of the last week. And I guarantee you I will delve in to being all in on watching the NBA tonight. And part of it is almost morbid curiosity. Not hoping from a morbid standpoint of anybody getting sick. No. No, I want zero, tests inside of the bubble. I want it to stay that way because I want sports to be able to continue. No, I mean just because it is so different. And I happened to catch Reggie Miller on another radio station earlier today on another sports outlet and basically saying He goes, having been down here, he goes, if you're used to feeding off a crowd, that ain't happening, man. You know, you can try to jazz it up, bring fans on video boards, play music, you know, have your own PA announcer or have a recorded of your normal PA announcer dropping catchphrases after a big play. He goes, it's just different. So seeing how different it is going to be will have my attention. But the main reason I'll be watching should be the main reason why we're all watching. Those dudes that play in the NBA are really damn good. We haven't been able to watch them play since March the 11th, at least in a regular season game. Yeah, I've been watching scrimmages and exhibition games and tune-ups over the course of the last 7 days. But this is the real thing we're talking about tonight and tomorrow and on Saturday when the Pacers finally debut. And I'll be honest with you, okay? I tend to be that person because of just how busy I am covering other things. The Pacers have my attention at the beginning of the season. And then I kind of, pick them up along the way as I can. But my attention to the Indiana Pacers, was about to really take off the last game they played. My college season was about to be done. My high school basketball season was down to playing just on Saturdays. About the time where I go, okay, my viewing habits for the next 5 or 6 weeks oftentimes will revolve around the blue and gold. That up and went away. And so now here we are, a chance to tune back in. It does not appear Domantas Sabonis anytime in the near future. Victor Oladipo, we think, we hope, we want to see him play on Saturday. I feel like I have to update, refresh Twitter every 30 seconds to get the official determination. Is he? I feel like Ted Knight in Caddyshack. Well, we're waiting. We hope to see him play on Saturday. It's great to see the NBA back, period. And our attention spans seemingly are now synced with the way that life changes. My wife sent me a note via text message today, and I texted her back. I said, everything changes every 5 minutes. That now matches our attention spans as the human race. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody else. The game of the day, the new shiny toy, or maybe the best way to say it, the returning shiny toy for all of us, is the NBA. And locally, that extends to the Indiana Pacers. You got to wait 48 more hours for the Indiana Pacers. They don't tip off until Saturday night at 7. But the NBA is back. And that will be the viewing habits in the Rakestraw household this evening. So you want to talk about the Indiana Pacers? Feel free. 317-239-1070. You want to talk about the Indianapolis Colts as they slowly work into what a training camp would somewhat look like? They're really kind of having mini camp right now for a couple of weeks, and then it becomes training camp, and now you got to figure out, okay, how are we making decisions on players? I was in on the Colts Zoom calls yesterday with Chris Ballard and Frank Reich. And I heard Kevin Bowen on with JMV yesterday. And when John asked him, hey, what's the best position battle on the team? I was listening in, and I kind of thought off the top of my head, I'm like, I think the best position battle is kicker. And that's the great thing. Hey, it's a great thing when that's your biggest position battle. You're in good shape as a franchise, which I feel the Indianapolis Colts are. But B, and you could argue the merit of, hey, just how much weight from a pressure standpoint do you really place on having to make a kick in a preseason game? But when you are kicking for your job as either McLaughlin or Blankenship, that's the kicker we got from George that has the specs, by the way. That's Rodrigo. He's the rookie kicker they have brought in. That may be the best position battle in training camp, but normally you get to see it. I get to talk about it unfold during a preseason football game. You don't get that. That's one of the things that both Chris Ballard and Frank Reich touched on yesterday. How do you go about sizing up any position battle any sort of pressure situation without really kind of having real live fire. We've seen Frank Reich from year one to year two eased up significantly in terms of the amount of hitting, both in preseason football and as well as simple practice a year ago. Now, in trying to get ready, you got to have something you can turn on to get guys going. You'll talk about those things more. We can talk some Colts with you. Clearly, from a high school football standpoint, high school athletics in period, I think we can talk to you about that. You want to talk a little Indy 11? That's cool too. You want to talk about Notre Dame suddenly being a part of the ACC? I realize they are in other sports, but now they are in football for this fall. We're going to talk about that in the next segment of the show, and we're going to talk about what this is doing to small college athletics. We will cover all of those bases on the program today. 317-239-1070, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email the show, greg@1070thefan.com. We start by talking Notre Dame football when we come back here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Check out 1075thefan.com for a list of all 11 Kroger ticket stops for your chance at Indy 500 tickets, courtesy of Mountain Dew. 500 miles, fueled by Dew.
Can you believe it? Pro basketball tips off again tonight, and Bet Rivers Sportsbook is your home for wagering on all pro basketball matchups. I'm Mike Wells here to tell you that you can get in on all the action today with Bet Rivers' best offer. Get up to a $250 bonus on your first deposit at Bet Rivers. There's no filler in these matchups. Go to BetRivers.com to legally bet on sports online in Indiana. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448. 1-800-994-8448. 8448.
This is a message for all men. After trying the little blue pill, my family doctor said my ED was incurable unless I had surgery. My wife was supportive. She told me it wasn't that important to her, but I knew it was deep down inside. I felt less of a man, less of a husband without that intimacy. I was embarrassed. But all of that changed the day I called the Indianapolis Men's Clinic and made an appointment. My wife went with me, and let me say, my doctor was wrong. We have regained our intimacy. It's truly amazing what they've done for us. Indianapolis Men's Clinic resolved my ED and my low testosterone all in one place. Thanks, guys. No matter your age, your condition, or if you suffer from Peyronie's disease, we can help. $99 for a physician evaluation, test dose, and testosterone checkup. Call now 317-999-9000. That's 999-9000. Or at IndyMen'sClinic.com.
Get up and go now, so you can go tonight.
Hey guys, thinking about a vasectomy but putting it off due to COVID-19? Now's actually a great time. Urology of Indiana is open for business and taking precautions to ensure patient safety and social distancing. You can schedule your procedure for a Thursday or Friday, then take the weekend to relax and recover. Their physicians perform vasectomies each day of the week, all year long, and are pros at what they do. They are board certified and have over 130 years of history in Indiana. My vasectomy at Urology of Indiana was simple and took only about 15 minutes. Soon after, I was out the door and on my way home. During my recovery, I took ibuprofen and was back to work in 3 days. Urology of Indiana has multiple vasectomy clinics, so chances are good there's one close to you. Schedule your appointment online today with Urology of Indiana at vasectomyindy.com. That's vasectomyindy.com.
Hi, Indiana. Everybody knows there are things in life that make total sense, like switching to Geico. They're the second largest auto insurer in the country, and they've been saving people money for over 75 years.
Other things make no sense, like stickers some manufacturers put on their non-stick pans. It's like the world's worst product demo.
However, it makes total sense to bundle your home and car insurance with Geico. You could save a lot, and they can insure your motorcycle, boat, and RV.
Clapping, on the other hand, makes no sense. Who decided a great way to show approval was to hit ourselves? Repeatedly.
On the other hand, it still makes sense to switch to Geico. They have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver. And emergency roadside service could help you get out of a pinch.
Conversely, arranging, then dismantling decorative pillows on a bed makes no sense whatsoever. Making the bed provides enough chore drudgery on its own.
So, Indiana, it makes sense to switch to Geico, online, over the phone, or with your local agent.
As Indiana returns to work, the Indiana union construction industry remains focused on getting the job done so our communities can get back on track. For over 100 years, our contractors and skilled tradesmen and women built and maintained Indiana's hospitals, highways, bridges, schools, and utilities, essential infrastructure that keeps our state moving forward during all conditions. And with safety as a top priority, we're ready for whatever it takes to rebuild our economy. We built Indiana's past, and we're here to build Indiana's tomorrow. The Indiana Union Construction Industry. Value on display every day.
I'm Trent Todd, business representative for Sheet Metal Workers Local 20. Our members and contractors have been the clean air and building enclosure specialists for over 100 years. We lead the industry in professionally installed energy-efficient HVAC systems, as well as properly installed architectural roofing and siding packages. From clean air to dry buildings, our team will exceed all your expectations. Skilled on principle, union by choice.
At Huntington, we're for people. The underdogs. The pioneers. The players. The slow and steadies. We're for people at Huntington. For who they are and who they could become. Yes, we're a bank, and some say our business is all about money. But that's an old idea. Because look past the money, and you'll see real human lives. We see it because we're for people. Huntington. Welcome. Member FDIC.
Kenny the Jet Smith.
What do you think of the bubble situation?
The players have kind of adjusted to the fact of lifestyle inside the bubble.
Interesting news out of the NFL. No exhibition games. I kind of think that that's not a bad thing.
If you're talking about it.
How should I put this?
We're talking about it.
Live radio is the best.
Everybody wants free speech until that speech disagrees with them.
I love live radio, live action sports, basketball, baseball, or football.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We got a lot of things to talk about. Business is officially picking up. NBA restarts this evening. Pacers restart on Saturday. Colts camp is underway, albeit in a very different form than we are used to. And college football, well, college football for some major programs could be like less than a month away. Week 0 suddenly starting to pop into the conversation, which would be on August the 29th. That is when Notre Dame was supposed to be playing their season opener. It's not playing out that way. But the outlook for Notre Dame's schedule looks so much better than it did just a couple of weeks ago. Talking about that and a whole lot more is my good buddy. He's the basketball voice of the Irish on radio, and you can find so much of his work at UND.com, hosts coaches shows for basketball and football. Simply, he's Mr. Fighting Irish Media. He is Jack Nolan that joins us now. Hello, my friend. How you doing?
Greg, I'm doing great, and I feel honored here because I follow producer Kyle on Twitter, and now just got to talk. So my day's already been made.
There you go. All right, buddy. So are you preparing your dossier of ACC notes as we speak?
Well, this year, the last few years, I've been the sideline reporter for football. This year, I was in the studio, which turned out to be a good move because ACC has eliminated sideline reporters during the course of the season as one of the many adjustments to COVID-19. I mean, I think this was the best possible outcome for Notre Dame, and maybe even a little bit better than one could have thought, because Notre Dame will have an opportunity to play in the ACC championship game. And when you look at the matchups, there's probably a likelihood. Right now, if you would bet Clemson and Notre Dame will be 1-2. Clemson and Notre Dame will play in the regular season. So in this crazy time that we live in, I'm not sure this could have turned out better after the decision of the Big Ten and Pac-12 to go to conference-only schedules, was Cox, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, USC, and Stanford on their schedule. I think this is ideal for Notre Dame and the ACC, to be honest with you.
When did the wheels kind of get set in motion? And obviously, necessity is the mother of invention, as you talk about. Pac-12 says our schools aren't playing you. Big Ten says our schools aren't playing you. Basically, at that point, was it Jack Swarbrick reaching out to the ACC? Was it in the other direction? How'd that process get started, and how quickly did it take to get done?
I don't know specifically who talked to whom, but I do know that Notre Dame is basically part of the ACC. So they have discussions on a regular basis. Notre Dame was already scheduled to play their normal slate of ACC games this season. I mean, they play more ACC teams than anyone else is their agreement, and they're already part of the ACC bowl package with the exception of the championship game and the Orange Bowl, and they're also eligible for the Orange Bowl and ACC package this year. A separate deal Notre Dame does with the Orange Bowl that allows them to be the opponent of an ACC team in other years if certain factors together. But I think the driving force behind this was the decision of the Pac-10 and the Big 12 to go to conference only. And as you know, the word is the SEC is going to do the same thing for the 5 conferences for them in a situation that is real, that is very serious. This is the way that the conferences believe that they can at least enforce their protocols to try to have a complete college football season. I know Notre Dame so far has done a terrific job. They've only had 2 players test positive, both at quarantine. One is back at practice. And those are really the kind of numbers that you're going to need most teams to have if you're going to have a competitive season.
All right, so let's talk about scheduling first. If the SEC goes to something similar, there would go the Arkansas game flying off the schedule. The ACC has said, listen, we're playing 11 games. You get 10 conference games. You get 1 non-conference game. That non-conference game has to be played in your state. And so, again, what that does is it allows the rivalries like Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Louisville, Clemson, South Carolina. That's the reason that was covered. So what it does is it allows Notre Dame to play a non-conference game at home. Does that become Navy? Does that become Western Michigan? Do we have clarification yet on that part yet, Jack?
No clarification on that as yet. I think there is an inclination to try to have it be Navy, but Navy would have to be willing to give up the home game and come to South Bend to keep the longest continuing rivalry in college football going. If it's not the case, the Western Michigan game is still on schedule, and that was a Notre Dame home game.
Right.
But those discussions are still going on. And again, you've got to wait and see how the ACC, we know the 10 games that Notre Dame and all the ACC teams will play, but we do not know yet when they will play them. We know where, but not when. So it is a continuing puzzle of moving parts. The good news is just some of those parts are slowing down.
And again, Jack Nolan from Notre Dame Radio for football, basketball, and more joining us here. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The ACC portion of the schedule that we knew about for Notre Dame, Wake Forest, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Louisville were all amongst the schools that Notre Dame was going to play. Are any of those dates changing, or are those dates locked in for the Irish?
Again, I am not process of my understanding is everything is open. ACC is going to put a new schedule together.
Gotcha.
And I don't know if they're locked in or not, but I would be surprised if they were, to be perfectly honest with you. I know Notre Dame was supposed to play Clemson in November, and a lot of Irish fans would prefer that game stay in November, thinking that they might have some kind of an advantage, like the Florida State game a few years ago when it was around, the chill was around 0, that was interesting experience for the Clemson Tigers. But as of now, again, we just don't know. And they have done a really good job of keeping all of this stuff close to the vest until finally make those decisions. And again, people, I've been on campus twice in an official capacity in the last 3 months. Notre Dame just started welcoming back employees the last couple of weeks. In fact, they closed down the Goog. They closed down Ralch where the basketball teams practice. And specifically, after requesting coaches not come in, there were some coaches who, because that's what they do, were going into work. They just can't come to campus. So all these meetings are being held, the vast majority of them virtually. I think in the next weeks they'll have to get this figured out. And, of course, there's another component. Let's be honest, Greg. Why can we still have college football when we know everyone is going to have a very small percentage of their normal fan bases in the stands, and that's for TV. and those TV dollars. So now they figure out the TV schedules from scratch again. I would bet you that is the most complicated aspect of this. I do know that the Georgia Tech game is being moved back on campus at Georgia Tech, which makes complete sense. Why would you rent an NFL stadium when you can't put many fans in it? I mean, all of those new type games, I'm sure whether they've been announced or not, are going to go back on campus where the home team is not paying rent to play in a facility.
Obviously, the dollars and cents play a factor, and everybody acknowledges that. But let's also talk about why we say student in front of athlete from a campus perspective. You touched on the employees and students being welcomed back. Last I had heard, the semester was going to start early and end early in South Bend. Is that still the case? And what does the percentage of, I guess, in-person versus online, what's that looking like for average Notre Dame students, let alone football players or athletes?
I don't know the actual percentages that are bringing all of the students back. All of the students have had to take a COVID test and turn those results in. The university supplied the entire student body COVID tests. If you come across even that you don't have it, then you come back. Larger classes are being held virtually. Smaller classes are being held in person. The Notre Dame football team has been staying in the Inn, the wonderful hotel that's on campus. I think it's one of the reasons they have been able to remain so unaffected by COVID-19. And that will be the challenge when they go back, both interacting with the student body and going back to their dorms when they're living with members of the student body. But the university's thinking was that once the semester starts, and all staffers are being requested, they acknowledge they can't enforce this, but they're asking every staff member at the university to basically not leave town from the time that the university resumes classes on August 10th until the semester right before Thanksgiving, the fall break. I believe to keep everyone together, don't allow them to spread out to different parts of the country where there may be different levels of infection, and try to get an entire safe, healthy semester into work. I do throw one thing out there because people, of course, have brought up the fact that Dame decided not to host the first presidential debate. And one thing that people haven't mentioned is one of the things that did concern Notre Dame. They can somewhat control who comes to a football game. Ticket holders, certainly students. You know who's coming to your game. Yeah, you knew there was going to be national media, political options, the two campaigns. But what you can't stop is what is a freedom in the United States, and that's the right to protest.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were not going to be able to control, how many protesters were there going to be? How many people were going to show up on campus from both sides to use their First Amendment rights to express their support or lack thereof for each of the candidates and other issues? And because they didn't think they could control that aspect with students on campus, it had already been decided. One of the big reasons Notre Dame was going to host that presidential event was because of the interactions that students would have been able to have with campaigns in the event and organizers, the educational opportunities. With COVID-19, the vast majority of that went away. There was not going to be a Purcell Pavilion packed with students watching this happen because of social distancing and whatnot. With the lack of student opportunity and the inability to control who was going to show up, that also was one of the reasons they decided to pull out. So when you compare that to football, it's not necessarily apples to apples. It is a little bit apples to oranges.
So now let's get into what we would, if you or I were having the in a vacuum, not in a bubble, but in a vacuum, our normal football preseason preview conversation. It wouldn't take us 12 minutes to get into the fact of, hey, how good are the Irish are going to be? But that's the world we live in. So, Jack, how good are the Irish going to be?
Well, the Irish do have the opportunity to have one of the best teams that they have had under Brian Kelly, and that says a lot. Because under Brian Kelly, they've gone to the playoff or the championship game twice. The semifinals with Clemson a few years ago, and, of course, the title game with Alabama. You look at the offense, and I really think it is a tremendous advantage for Notre Dame to have a third-year starter and Ian Book back at quarterback. You have to remember, everybody lost spring practice. That's when you have install.
Yep.
Notre Dame just got into phase 3 of resuming college football practice earlier this week, or on the 24th when they were allowed to start it. They're now installing what they would have done in spring practice right now with the offense. They got an entire offensive line back, have inexperience at wide receiver, but a depth of talent, playmakers. Brandon Lindsey comes back. You've got Kevin Austin, who may be the best receiver they had, who sat out last year because of off-the-field issues. You've got very talented tight ends back. You have 5 starting offensive line coming back. I think it's been like 15 years since that had happened. And then you've got a defense where, Mike Elsted's done a tremendous job. You again have a difference-making defensive line, which they've had for 2 or 3 years, which was the one area of somewhat frustration for Notre Dame. They got a lot of talented guys coming back on that line. Got a lot of athleticism at linebacker, and you've got some really good talent, albeit young talent, in the secondary led by Kyle Hamilton, who's a guy everybody's hoping but doesn't think Notre Dame will have for 4 years because he's that good. So they have the potential to be very, very good. It's some people who have been screaming for Notre Dame to join a conference forever are scheduled here, which kind of supports what I've often said. Notre Dame's schedule is usually in the top 20. They'll be playing at least if there's so many rankings out there. If you go to the college football news preseason rankings, Notre Dame will play at least games against ranked teams this year from the ACC. So, you'll see what happens. But I think another issue we're going to have is I'll be stunned if you don't have a Miami Marlins situation where a team or two has to shut it down for a few weeks.
Right.
How are you going to be able to handle the ebb and flow? Schedule changes. What if you go 2 weeks without playing? Each team now has 2 byes to try to build to that. But this has already been a year unlike any other in my lifetime, and I'm older than I like to admit. And certainly I think unlike any year, certainly until, I didn't know all that much about the 1917 flu epidemic. But that's why Notre Dame only played 6 games that year, and they didn't start till October. And there's a classic photo I saw. Maybe this is a lesson for all of us of a Georgia Tech game,
right,
where the capacity crowd, every single person wore a mask in Atlanta. This should be political. If we all do that, we have a much better chance of having a complete football season, high school and college. The IHSAA is trying to get ahead with a normal schedule, and they're the only not sure Ohio is doing, but I know that Michigan and Illinois are not doing that. So same thing. If you want a complete schedule, just put on the mask. It's pretty much proven that it does help stop the transmission, but at least we can do it with a vaccine to figure this evil thing out.
Jack, my friend, as always, I appreciate it. I hope you are 11 games worth of busy this football season, and even more so than that for basketball. Stay safe, my friend. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Greg. Always.
You got it. Jack Nolan, again, he is the radio voice for Notre Dame basketball, studio host for Notre Dame football, and when it comes to Fighting Irish media, he's the guy you go to in Jack Nolan. We go from Division I and the ACC to Division III and the HCAC. Their problems are the same. They just don't have the television money to help mitigate that. So what does that mean for small college sports? My buddy Jay Jones, the commissioner of the HCAC, joins us next. It's Greg Rakestraw in for JMV, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Kids, tell your parents about Forum Credit Union's Sprout of the Month contest, where you could win $100 in a Sprout account for college. Details at 1075thefan.com.
Hey, it's JMV for Indiana's Best. It's Andy Moore Toyota in Avon, 5 miles west of 465 on US 36. Online at AndyMooreToyota.com. Andy Moore Toyota is open both online and on-site. Shop whichever makes you more comfortable. You can complete all of your paperwork online, and Andy Moore Toyota will deliver your car right to your house. Andy Moore Toyota will have you going places with brand new Toyota models. They stock a full lineup of brand new Toyota models, including powerful Tacoma pickups, Sienna minivans, and fuel-efficient Prius hybrids. New car, well, maybe not for you. Andy Moore Toyota has bargain deals on the like new used cars. They stock used cars, trucks, SUVs, crossovers, and pickup trucks from all the different automakers to give you the best selection. It's Indiana's best. Andy Moore Toyota in Avon. You got to tell him I sent you. 5 miles west of 465 on US 36.
He's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning. The Kirbys have been in business for nearly 4 decades, and son Robert says his parents' business practices won't ever change.
I love the way that they've ran the business, treat the customer right. Word of mouth is our biggest advertisement, so you treat people right and they're going to recommend you 10 times more, so it's been great.
Call Jessica, Lloyd, Robert, and Adam at Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning at 317-892-3614. Kirby is your trusted local independent American Standard dealer.
Hey, it's JMV, and it's hard to believe we're already halfway through 2020. In addition to coming up with creative ways to spend the remaining days of your summer, how about budgetary goals? Look at your budget and set realistic spending and budget goals to reach by the end of this year. Informed Credit Union can help. 6 important numbers to check mid-year, like your credit score, debt-to-income ratio, and retirement savings rate. See the information and get all the financial guidance you need at a branch location or online, forumcu.com. Today.
They're breaking all the rules at Diamonds Direct with an unprecedented store-wide sale going on now. Save 20% and more on an expanded selection. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, including trunk loads of all new designer pieces flown in from around the world. But hurry, this first time ever 11-day sale ends this Sunday. In-store, online, and virtual. All options open. All merchandise included. Even thousands of engagement rings on sale. An extraordinary sale for an extraordinary time. 20% savings now through Sunday only. Only at Diamonds Direct.
Keystone at the Crossing.
Interesting times, Indy. It's good to know Rhino Shield's helping folks end their painting worries, like they did with Glenn.
My wife actually, on our old house, on our roof, and the paint can then fell, and it was at that point we said, we just really don't want to do this anymore.
Our crews always follow Indiana guidelines on social distancing. We work outside while you're safe inside.
There is an R factor to the paint, and so we actually feel as though we're reduced our heating bills and even our air conditioning bills just because of the R factor.
Right now is the perfect time to get 15% off the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield.
And it actually transferred to the new owners.
Call today for a free virtual presentation and ask for our showcase homes near you where you can see our finished product firsthand from the safety of your car. Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
Call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hey, it's JMV. Sports are back, and you can find all the action on FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel has 2 great ways to win that you will not want to miss. First off, FanDuel is adding $10 in free bets to every account. No deposit required and no strings attached. How about that? In addition to your $10 bonus, FanDuel is also giving you a day of risk-free betting. That means you can place any bets you want, baseball, basketball, hockey, and get up to $100 back in your total losses. If you're already on FanDuel Sportsbook account, you're all set. Use that $10 bonus and a day of risk-free betting before they expire on August the 2nd. Now, if you have yet to sign up, download FanDuel Sportsbook, the app now. Use the promo code JMV. That's the promo code JMV. FanDuel Sportsbook. Promo code is JMV to get your first bet risk-free. 21 plus, present in Indiana. Offer ends August 2nd. $100 max refund issued in site credit and expires 7 days. $10 bonus issued as non-withdrawable site credit and expires August the 2nd. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
SportsCenter updates on the Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Get up to $150 off select sets of tires only at Big O Tires, the team you trust.
Bet on the game while you watch it. Live streaming of matches with loads of in-game betting options. Download BetRivers Sportsbook or go to BetRivers.com today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
If you love one-of-a-kind treasures or colored gemstones like fine rubies, sapphires, or emeralds, Pierce Jewelers is the place to go. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
Coming up Friday morning on the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Big Joe is back, and we'll get you ready to go for the restart of the Pacers season on Saturday night. It's Friday morning at 7 here on the Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Bullish Brents hanging and banging with you until the 8 o'clock hour. Coming up, we have artists such as Living Color and the Fine Young Cannibals right now. Here's Roxette, The Look, 89.9 WROL.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, JMV and I sound alike now. We didn't sound alike back then. Now, I am sure if you pulled up the old WICR air checks from me in the mid-'90s at UIndy, A, I hope Scott Eaker has burned those things, but B, if you did, it wouldn't be a matter of having a lisp. I'm sure I would sound younger. I don't have the resonance in my voice back then that I do now. My issue was, and I still fight it from time to time, is thinking faster than I can speak, is talking a mile a minute. It slowed down after a couple of years. That's the biggest thing I had to fight, but no Polith Printh for me. Greg Rake, okay, maybe we did sound alike if I try to imitate him exactly in that fashion. 317-239-1070, but again, we are very guest-heavy today. Good segment to dial us up would be next segment. Hit me up on Twitter now at Greg Rakestraw. Email the show, Greg at 1070thefan.com. You just heard what Notre Dame's plans are, and I will get back to talking more Notre Dame in the next segment of the program about being a fully fledged member of the ACC in football for this fall. I just saw this courtesy of my good buddy Tom Dienhart. He says he expects the Big Ten to begin their season on Labor Day weekend as originally planned, and that a revised schedule could be coming out in the next 24 to 48 hours. So stay tuned for details on that over the course of the next couple of days. At the major college level, you can do that. At the small college level, at least a Division II and Division III will have word on the NAIA in terms of football tomorrow. They felt they couldn't. They are now hoping to play in the spring. And it's not just football. It's soccer. It's volleyball. The non-contact sports will continue on, but the contact sports will have to wait. And a man that had to weigh so many decisions to make that announcement early this week for his league is my buddy Jay Jones. He is the commissioner of the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference. Jay, it's good to talk with you. I wish you were under better circumstances. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much, Greg. And I'm going to make you feel better about yourself. You led into this segment talking about your struggles and what you sounded like on the radio. So I'd like to welcome the listeners to the Southern dialect portion of the show, and it'll make you feel better about how you sound on the radio. So thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be able to talk about COVID-19 because I haven't been doing that for 4 months.
No. I haven't been doing that since March the 10th at all in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I guess, where do you want to begin? When did the discussions really begin in earnest for you and so many of your counterparts at your member schools and other leagues like yours across the country? When did it really begin saying, you know what, I still don't think we're ready for this, at least for particular sports?
Yeah, that's so. Just to give the listeners a sense of kind of what this is like on the inside of college athletics. Hopefully, I can provide that perspective to them. I would like to say though, we're so blessed to work in the sports world, and there's a lot of people that this virus is impacting in a real negative way. So I don't want to sound like I'm whining, but I am, without a doubt, tired, as are so many others in our business. So, as you said, March 10th, for us in college athletics, it was really March 13th. It was a Friday, and that was the day that everybody starts coming off the courts and all those things. Since that time, what I can tell you is in that 4 months of time, I have made more impactful decisions in our league and its leaders. And I have worked through more impactful decisions than I did in 4 years as a commissioner of a Division II league in Florida. So it has been, one thing after another. I will also share with the listeners, and this is something probably true of so many industries right now. When you answer one question about how you're going to deal with something, you get immediately 10 others, and they're good ones. So you say, okay, well, we've got that figured out. Now what? So even after the announcement on Monday this week, my goodness, I was in just such a horrible mood. One, having to share that with coaches and athletes and make those hard decisions. But then two, you're tired and you think, okay, we made a big decision. We've released that information out to the public, and now I can catch a breath. And again, there's other good questions that come. So that's been just just something that, again, everyone in our country is faced with this thing, and I know all of us everywhere are just really tired. You ask directly about when did we start to think, I'm not sure that we can make this work. And I think ultimately after the spring and we had to cancel those sports, and that kind of fell apart quickly, as you know. After that, you start watching and you really just start questioning, how can we safely make sure our student athletes get out there? What made such a big difference for us, the NCAA Sports Science Institute, and this is a group of medical leaders in college sports, but they also have several other advisory councils and others that help them. And they put out, after a congressional hearing in which the government really said, the NCAA should be taking a stronger lead on testing protocols. And they put out a document that we got exactly 7 days ago on July 23rd that talked through what testing protocols you needed to feel comfortable with your sports. So from that moment, which again is exactly the 23rd that it was released, we had a sense of what was going to be in it. That was the good news, is that we worked and knew some of the things that we were likely to be looking at. Really, the evaluation becomes, can we do this from a financial standpoint? Can we do this from a safety standpoint? How many tests do we need to do? And do we feel comfortable taking those tests out of our local markets? So one of the things to understand when you're looking at the HCAC, while Franklin has a relationship with the hospital and is local or nearby the Indianapolis area, some of our schools, whether it's a Manchester or an Earlham or an Anderson, if you start taking the test from those local markets to use for the football team, it has a real impact. So it was a financial piece in just the cost of testing to make sure that you were safe to get out on the field. But then you also had kind of the social responsibility piece added into that. And ultimately, just several factors made us say, things hopefully will, and we truly believe they might be better in the spring.
So with that, what does spring football look like at a Division III institution? Because normally it's a loose practice without a spring game. Now you're talking about playing a full conference schedule. What does football look like? And I realize it's volleyball and it's soccer too, but for the purpose of this conversation, we'll keep it to football. Sure. What does March, April, and May football look like in your league?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things about this that are kind of interesting. For one thing, I think there may be coaches throughout our league in those sports, in those high contact sports, football, soccer, and volleyball, that enjoy this arrangement this year because they get some practice in the fall, and so they get based on some leniency that was granted from the NCAA, we'll get several days of practice in the fall. Now that practice is going to look vastly different in that you're probably in football, for instance, not going to go 11 on 11 full pads. Some of our schools will do that maybe for a short amount of time and do some testing in those times, but ultimately, what the spring ends up looking like. Right now, we are setting down some final date parameters, but based on what has happened all around us and in our league also, we full well expect that we will play a full conference schedule, which in our case we have 8 schools that play football in the league, so we'll have 7 games. And then from there, if the NCAA does end up canceling the Division III football championship, and we don't know whether they will or they won't, but if they were to, and we think that's a strong possibility, we'd love to have a regional game, a bowl-type game scenario for our top 1 or 2 teams at the end of the season to give those men something that they can look forward to. So we'll see, but I think in its core, it would be a single round robin schedule and determine a conference champion go from there.
Jay Jones, again, he's the commissioner of the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference, joining us here on the ride with JMV. One quick thing, and then we'll let you go. Obviously, you have now, met that threshold as far as saying, hey, we had to make a decision at this point for the fall, and we have done that. And again, sports like golf and cross country and tennis will be allowed to continue on. I know in the winter that swimming will be allowed to progress as it normally would. When does a basketball decision get made, and when does a basketball schedule get to begin to take place if things continue? I wouldn't say continue, but if things head in the right direction, when does basketball start on your campuses?
Yeah, great. And a question that, again, gives me an opportunity to show the perspective of small college athletics versus, a Division I level where you spend the money in a different way and you kind of emphasize things in a little different way. So for us, the basketball decision will hopefully get made tomorrow. We have another meeting with our presidents tomorrow, and we have a recommendation going forward. And what the challenge is with basketball for a conference like ours is about 10 institutions, 5 of them now will have students depart campus at Thanksgiving and not come back onto campus. So that's a predominant thing throughout higher ed in the country this year, just to keep the spread of the virus from returning
right.
when the students return from home. So that's the basketball conundrum is, look, 5 of our schools are not going to have students on campus. So, do we keep those students longer? Do we not? So what it probably means for us, we have normally played a few basketball games in December. We probably move everything to after the start of the new year. And then our hope is that the basketball season beyond some shift there looks fairly normal at the conference level. I think the non-conference basketball schedule, because so many leagues have said we will do nothing until after January, that might look a little different for some of our schools because our schools are potentially going to be playing. And because of that, it's who do you play and how does that look for the non-conference schedule prior to the holiday break. But that gives you a sense, I think, of where we're headed.
Jay, I know it has been a time unlike any other, and I'm not sure that period is ending in the very near future. Thanks for taking some time to talk with us today, buddy. I'll catch up with you again real soon.
Thanks so much, Greg, for having me on and letting me talk about the HCAC, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. The commissioner at the Division III Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference, Jay Jones, as again, it was on Monday that their league said no football in the fall. Same thing for the Great Lakes Valley Conference, of which UIndy is a member at the Division II level. And at the NAIA level, they have basically said we're going to move our fall championships to the spring. If your campus feels you can play both in the fall and the spring, but we will not compete for a championship with the exception of football. And that announcement at the small college level gets made tomorrow, or that decision is at least announced tomorrow. At least that's the schedule as far as how it takes place. I am way late, which makes me the perfect fill-in for JMV. Back from this commercial break in a moment. At 4:30, the commissioner of the IHSAA, Paul Neidig. Indy 11 head coach Martin running at 4:45, all coming up this hour on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's JMV for my friends at Connecticut Water. Do you have problem water? Well, I have the greatest solution right here, and that's Connecticut. How about the biggest discount on the same whole home water treatment system I have? And for a limited time, take $1,200 off a Premier Series water softener and K5 drinking water station. This is a huge discount, and when I say huge, I mean huge. That's what I'm doing for you. Check it out, ConnecticutIndy.com today.
BetMGM wants you to start out with amazing odds on this week's most anticipated matchup. That's why they're giving new customers a chance to win $100 in free bets when they bet $1 on the Lakers-Clippers game. If either team hits a 3, you win $100. All you have to do is sign up and make your first bet with bonus code WFNI100 to take advantage of this crazy offer. Now, whatever your sport, whatever your betting style, you're going going to feel at home at BetMGM, the sports betting app from the same folks that bring you the world's most spectacular casino resorts. Choose from all of your favorite wagering options along with in-game betting, boosted odds specials, daily promotions, and much more. Download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and use bonus code WFNI100 to win $100 in free bets when you bet $1 on the Lakers-Clippers game. And if either team hits a three, you win. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older and physically located in Indiana. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Hey guys, thinking about a vasectomy but putting it off due to COVID-19? Now's actually a great time. Urology of Indiana is open for business and taking precautions to ensure patient safety and social distancing. You can schedule your procedure for a Thursday or Friday, then take the weekend to relax and recover. Their physicians perform vasectomies each day of the week, all year long, and are pros at what they do. They are board certified and have over 130 years of history in Indiana. My vasectomy at Urology of Indiana was simple and took only about 15 minutes. Soon after, I was out the door and on my way home. During my recovery, I took ibuprofen and was back to work in 3 days. Urology of Indiana has multiple vasectomy clinics, so chances are good there's one close to you. Schedule your appointment online today with Urology of Indiana at vasectomyindy.com. That's vasectomyindy.com.
Imagine if you lost $111,000 in retirement. You know, according to Forbes, that's exactly what happens to 96% of Americans. They lose out on an average of $111,000 in Social Security income because they claim their benefits at the wrong time. But you could easily avoid this with a free customized Social Security analysis from Bill Demery, your retirement guy, trusted for over 3 decades right here in Indy. If you have saved more than $100,000 and have not filed for Social Security, call to schedule this free analysis right now at 317-434-1766. This analysis could help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income, and it won't cost you a dime. 317-434-1766. 317-434-1766.
I'm Ryan Kelly with thehomeloanexpert.com. For a limited time, the Federal Reserve is taking actions to lower mortgage interest rates into the 2s. This is a temporary move designed to give homeowners the lowest monthly payment possible. At the Home Loan Expert, we are saving folks hundreds, even thousands of dollars a month with a refinance. Don't miss your chance. Take advantage of this program before it's too late. TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
The Home Loan Expert LLC, NMLS number 1326241.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
Red Sox, Yankees, Sunday Night Baseball. The coverage begins at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
I got nowhere else to go.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I referenced that business is picking up from an event standpoint. There is no better example of that. And again, it's a sight gag on radio, so I apologize. And because the substitute teacher is in, there's even no YouTube today. You have to listen to the radio or to the stream. You can't just watch the show. And my beard looks glorious, by the way, so you're really missing out. The whiteboard in here, normally the domain of one Scott Johnston, is chock full of games. There's like 5 Pacers games up here. There's like 2 generic NBA games, ESPN radio games. There's 2 ESPN radio baseball games up here. There's a couple of IndyCar races that are coming up. And, of course, earlier this week with the lopping off of the West Coast portion of the schedule, the month of August, which now has the Indy 500 and has qualifying, for the actual race. Also has doubleheaders the weekend before qualifying at Indy and the weekend after the 500. So there's like 4 consecutive weekends of IndyCar radio. You get to hear more Mark Janes, Nick Yeoman, Jake Query, etc. That's never a bad thing, right? So yes, is it business as normal? No, but as business, is sports. It's every night with a return of baseball, and now it's going to be every night with basketball. And if you're a puckhead, well, hockey's not far away from returning either. You will not have a lack of options to be watching sports over the course of the next 4, 6, 8 weeks and beyond. Now, if you're just joining us, Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. He is back for the Evan Williams Bourbon Backyard broadcast tomorrow. He gets the day off today. You have missed Jack Nolan, the voice of Notre Dame sports, on the radio and UND.com. You missed Jay Jones just now, the commissioner of the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference at the Division III level. I had him on because of their announcement earlier this week that they're going to be playing spring football. What the Division II folks are going to be doing. Does it happen at the FCS level? At the Group of 5 level, no. And clearly the Power 5 guys are reorganizing their schedules as we speak. And there was a couple of things that I just didn't have a chance to get to with Jack Nolan that I will attempt to answer here in this open segment before we get to the commissioner of the IHSAA and Paul Neidig in the next segment of the show. And if I had more time with Jack, we had already hit the 15-minute mark, and I was late for that break, which may be late for the following break, and that's radio nerd stuff. You don't care. But anyway, if I had more time with Jack, the proper final question to him should have been this. Does playing a full ACC schedule ever get Notre Dame closer to giving up the ghost as a football independent and joining the ACC on a full-time basis? My guess is I probably know what the answer that would have been coming, and I will probably, trying to answer my own question, give you the same answer right now. And the answer is no. This is an unimaginable set of circumstances that has led us to this point. The only way that Notre Dame ends up in a football conference, as they are in a conference for every other sport in which they participate, would be if the spigot of television revenue gets turned off by NBC. And then if NBC says, hey, you know what? We're in the NFL business. We're not in the college football business. Thanks, but no thanks. We're moving on. Then the question, instead of, okay, now are they in the ACC? Well, what would happen first would be, does ESPN offer them their own deal? Does CBS offer them their own deal as an independent before going to the ACC? So this is a one-time, unique, and for Notre Dame, amazingly convenient scenario, given the fact that games were popping off of their schedule. And we thought, all right, well, you're going to play BYU. You're going to call up UConn. You're going to dial up UMass, all that are currently living the nomadic life of independence at the FBS level, where you could have filled games but not exactly had the Q rating you normally would for your normal schedule that Jack alluded to. Year in, year out, a top 20 schedule, and there's, whether you like Notre Dame or not, there's zero arguing that point. They play a great schedule every year. But the only way that Notre Dame ends up in the ACC or wherever from a football conference standpoint is twofold, okay? A, if the money gets turned off to have your own football deal. Is Notre Dame as unique as they were in the early 90s when having their own network television package was something that no other school could dream about? Yes and no. No other school is getting an individual television deal of that magnitude, but everybody is making so much money on television that, well, they're playing college football in a pandemic. So, yeah, everybody, there is a flood of television money for all of the Power 5 conference schools. Notre Dame has to share less of it most years than anybody else does. This year, as part of this package, they apparently are splitting their television revenue to buy their way into the ACC from a scheduling standpoint for 1 year. But again, it's a 1-year marriage of convenience. If the television money goes away, that would be one thing. The other thing that could nudge Notre Dame in this direction would be that if the college football playoff, for some reason, doesn't expand past 4, as we all kind of expect it to in the near future 3 to 5 to 10 year range. If it doesn't, and if it stays at 4, and if somehow Notre Dame is shut out from being a participant in the college football playoff series, which we have already seen them in the days of 2 teams making it in, and in the days of 4 teams making it in. That's the only other way that Notre Dame ends up joining the ACC. Follow the money, kids. It's not that hard. So I didn't have a chance to ask Jack that question. I just answered it myself, and my guess would be that some variation of what Jack would have said would have been along those lines. So if you've wanted to see Notre Dame play in a conference, this fall is your opportunity, because they'll go back to adjunct faculty in the ACC next year and playing their 5 or 6 games and returning to their usual. We'll play either USC or Stanford at home. We'll play Navy every year. We'll work in a Big Ten team or 2. We'll find one other random team to play a neutral site game, or now occasionally bring a MAC school a la Western Michigan, as was scheduled, or Ball State in the recent past, to bring in to give us kind of one get-ready game on our schedule and move on. And I think that will continue going forward. But the other part of this, too, is, again, Notre Dame is set up to have a really good year. But in hearing what Jack had to say, again, Notre Dame had 6 ACC games originally on the schedule this year. Could they be playing those schools? Yeah, or maybe not. They could find different opponents, because the ACC will have to have a new schedule printed out. And again, just from a consumer standpoint, I would expect to see the college football season now not wait until Labor Day in a lot of places. You're going to see teams playing on August the 29th, trying to build an extra bye week or 2 if you possibly can. And as far as the college football conversation is concerned, there's a couple different ways to go about it. You know, there is obviously what it means for the Notre Dames of the world and the Indianas of the world and the Purdues of the world from a scheduling standpoint, and having a season and what a successful season will look like. But there's also the big college football event that happens here every year, as in the Big Ten championship game. And what will that look like? Does it take place? Just how many fans, if any, would be allowed to be here as of the weekend after Thanksgiving? I mean, let's face it. And the person I get this line from is the person that joins us next on the show, Paul Knighting, the soon-to-be commissioner of the IHSAA. I was like, hey, man, long-term planning may not exactly be my thing right now. Like, we're kind of in a 2-week window sort of mode, and we'll see how the next 2 weeks go. And so I realized that all of us in life aren't exactly thinking about what may be happening in December. But since we're talking college football, you know, that's one of the crowning jewels, so to speak, of the sports calendar every year. Even if we haven't seen Indiana or Purdue playing it, even if you don't care about the 2 teams that are playing in the game, even if you're kind of tired of seeing Ohio State playing the game most every year, you know what? You know who does care about it? Every downtown merchant that could use the shot in the arm of business, because business has been in the crapper for the better part of the last 5 months. So there's that to be thinking about as far as the, I wouldn't say near future, but since we're starting to think about college football now, and if schools are allowed to play August 29th, we are now less than a month away from the start of the major college football season. Does the end of that season have a path to come here to Indianapolis? Obviously, thankfully, we're still a little while away from the, national championship game coming to Indianapolis. But the Big Ten championship game coming here is still a very big deal. 317-239-1070 is the telephone number. At Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email the program to greg@1070thefan.com. But again, on this Thursday afternoon, I am doing the majority of the heavy lifting. 2 guests down, 4 more yet to come. And yesterday, the hot-button issue of sports locally seemed to be high school football and other things not being played in Marion County until October the 1st. That decision either was never fully made or was rescinded. Because earlier in the day yesterday, the IHSAA said, if your school wants to play, if your community feels it's safe, there will not be a postponement of the season from a statewide level by the IHSAA. One of the men behind that decision is the commissioner. His name is Paul Neidig, replacing the retiring Bobby Cox, and Paul will join us next. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. You're listening on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Check out 1075thefan.com for a list of all 11 Kroger ticket stops for your chance at Indy 500 tickets, courtesy of Mountain Dew. 500 miles, fueled by Dew.
Hey, it's JMV from my friends at Crocs, the absolute best for your car, truck, or van. The home of the best in brakes, lifetime brakes, just $99.99 per axle. And, of course, in the heat of the summertime, an AC inspection is essential. Just $19.99. No better place in central Indiana that covers absolutely everything for your car, truck, or van than CarX. Check them out today. CarX.com for the location nearest you.
Don't worry, call the CarX man.
BetMGM wants you to start out with amazing odds on this week's most anticipated matchup. That's why they're giving new customers a chance to win $100 in free bets when they bet $1 on the Lakers-Clippers game. If either team hits a 3, you win $100. All you have to do is sign up and make your first bet with bonus code WFNI100 to take advantage of this crazy offer. Now, whatever your sport, whatever your betting style, you're going to feel at home at BetMGM, the sports betting app from the same folks that bring you the world's most spectacular casino resorts. Choose from all of your favorite wagering options along with in-game betting, boosted odds specials, daily promotions, and much more. Download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com and use bonus code WFNI100 to win $100 in free bets when you bet $1 on the Lakers-Clippers game. And if either team hits a 3, you win. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older and physically located in Indiana. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Marshall Mechanical. Owner Eric Marshall tells us what he's looking for when hiring employees.
I'd love to find people with positive attitudes, people of high integrity, and then train them for the industry. That's really a good fit for us. Somebody that has good customer relations, somebody that's very active in their community is always a great fit for us. We'd be happy to talk to people.
Call Marshall Mechanical at 317-738-5940 or go to callthemarshallnow.com. In Franklin, Marshall Mechanical is your trusted local independent American Standard dealer.
We see you over there, looking around to see if anyone's watching as you grab your phone to check your credit score. Don't worry, we're not creeping up on you like Mondays, but VergeCredit.com knows what's going on. You're on the verge of something great, on the verge of improving your payment history, on the verge of a lower interest rate. At VergeCredit.com, we know that's no easy feat. So goal-getter, why not choose a personal loan that works just as hard for you? A loan that reports payment history, so each on-time payment could help build your credit score. A loan that believes in personalizing the details to fit you and your situation. From the amount to the term and payment, it's time you take control of your credit score with a personalized personal loan from VergeCredit.com. Start your journey to achieving your credit goals today. At VergeCredit.com, you're on the verge of something great. Lending decisions subject to eligibility, credit check, underwriting, and approval. Rates, terms, and conditions apply. Late payments, missed payments, or other defaults on your account may be reflected in your credit report. Loans are underwritten and originated in Salt Lake City, Utah by Stride Bank N.A. member FDIC and serviced by Verge Credit.
Can you believe it? Pro basketball tips off again tonight, and Bet Rivers Sportsbook is your home for wagering on all pro basketball matchups. I'm Mike Wells here to tell you that you can get in on all the action today with Bet Rivers' best offer. Get up to a $250 bonus on your first deposit at Bet Rivers. There's no filler in these matchups. Go to BetRivers.com to legally bet on sports online in Indiana. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448. 1-800-994-8448.
Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's. 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 Puccini's Pizza, Pasta, Puccini's.
When it comes to working at Geico, our best advocates are our employees, like Maxine. But since she is so focused on growing her career, we hired an actor to read her story.
At Geico, I love mentoring the new associates to help them make this a career and not just a job.
And with new opportunities and job stability, Geico has been helping people grow their careers for over 75 years. The only downside, she still hasn't met the gecko. Where are you, fella?
Ready to start your career, Indy? We're hiring claim sales and service agents. Apply online today at geico.job/Indy.
Hey, it's JMV for Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Around for 100 years, they have what you need, including air purification. And the iWave, the most advanced air purification system anywhere. Right now, you can save $125 just by mentioning to John and Chris my name. Also, know this, Love Heating and Air Conditioning, following CDC recommended guidelines to maintain your health and safety. 317-353-2141. They're the best. Love-HVAC.com today.
Let Pierce Jewelers in Carmel take your older jewelry and gemstones and repurpose them into something new and exciting for that special occasion in your life. So shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
Kenny the Jet Smith.
What do you think of the bubble situation?
The players have kind of adjusted to the fact of lifestyle inside the bubble.
Interesting news out of the NFL. No exhibition games. I kind of think that that's not a bad thing.
If you're talking about it.
How should I put this?
We're talking about it.
Live radio is the best.
Everybody wants free speech until that speech disagrees with them.
I love live radio, live action sports, basketball, baseball, or football.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
This situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part. We're just the guys to do it.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, kind of a little breaking news. We were talking a little college football last segment and waiting for a domino to fall. And, well, one has fallen. The SEC has said, we will also announce a different schedule for our teams, but it will not include any non-conference games. So the Pac-12 and Big Ten have gone that route. The ACC, because of having schools that have numerous rivalry games with other SEC schools, for example, Louisville, Kentucky, Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia, and Georgia Tech. Well, those games won't be happening this year because the SEC is going to go to a conference-only model. They will play 10 games. Now, and perhaps because of the nature of coronavirus hotspots being a bit more spread out to the Southeast right now, instead of trying to play earlier, like many Big 12 teams are doing, they're going to play later. The SEC is going to not start their season until September the 26th. Now, SEC teams have often played like one conference game very early, and then there's always this random game right before Thanksgiving against some poor team from the SCS level. Basically, SEC gives away the spotlight the week before Thanksgiving, and then they take it right back for Thanksgiving and the SEC championship game. We have grown accustomed to seeing championship games that first Saturday in December. The SEC will be playing their championship game the Saturday before Christmas on December the 19th. So the SEC is going to a 10-game schedule, not starting until September the 26th. You will play everyone in your division. Instead of playing a couple of teams from outside of your division, you will play 4 teams from outside of your division. 10 games, all conference championship game, December the 19th. Again, as is the case with everything else in life, everything is a moving target right now. That is certainly the case when it comes to high school sports as well. Who's playing? Is your schedule going to change? What open dates? These things seem to vary by the hour. But the IHSAA made it clear yesterday, if you feel it is safe to play in your community and your school district, you will not be impeded by doing so from the IHSAA. I think that's an accurate representation of yesterday's announcement from the IHSAA. And here to tell me otherwise, in case it wasn't, is my friend, the Commissioner-to-be of the IHSAA, in Paul Neidig. Hello, buddy. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good.
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It is always good to talk to you, and I know this is quite the career accomplishment, not talking to me, but being the commissioner of the IHSAA. But what an unreal welcome to the job you have received in kind of this transitional time the last 3 months. How would you describe life as the commissioner in waiting of the IHSAA?
Well, it's certainly been interesting. I've not gotten bored at this point with this job, and we're certainly we're listening to a lot of patrons out there and a lot of individuals, parents, and schools, and taking in a lot of opinions on COVID and this pandemic, and we're just trying to make the best decision we can for everybody in the state of Indiana.
All right, so with that, let me start with this. What as far as how you make decisions apply to the fall, where do you kind of go to school on what you learned in dealing with this process in the spring?
Well, I think the thing with the spring, it was certainly new. All the research wasn't out there yet, the transmission rate, the way it was transmitted, the questions to ask student athletes and people to see if they've been exposed. We had none of that information in the spring.
Sure.
And out of an abundance of caution, schools had to shut down, businesses shut down, the country shut down, and so did we. But we're learning slowly, whether we like it or not, to live with this pandemic and COVID. Things are opening back up. We're going back to school. And it's interesting. We're kind of late to the table with participating in athletics. The little leagues and the AAUs and the other avenues for sport for kids to play have been back at it for 2 months, and they continue to play. And we've been back at it for almost 4 weeks now, and really things are going well.
From a standpoint, Paul, of the way I've described it to people, and this will resonate with you given where you're from and given where I'm from, what's good for Pike may not be good for Pike Central. Those are two completely different places. How have you dealt with that, thinking, okay, there may be areas that are coping with this in a different way, and there may be other areas of the state that really haven't been affected as much by this. How much have you weighed that in your decision-making process during this time?
Oh, I think that's at the top of our list. And Greg, we've been, our neighbors to the west in Iowa they're contesting their state championships this weekend in baseball and softball. They've been playing all summer, and we've watched how they've handled it. And I think we can learn some things from there. I think what we know is as we get into this fall season, we're going to have some teams that don't have any issues at all. We're going to have some teams that are going to get shut down. And at that point, we'll cancel the contest. We'll declare it a no contest, and we hope everybody gets healthy and back to play as soon as possible. But we know there are going to be starts and stops, and some communities are not going to be affected. Some may, and I think it's just you've got to manage through this. And, everybody has a personal decision to make here, too, whether they want to play or not, or whether they want to be involved in this, and I think that's going on out there also right now.
There have been numerous states that have said we can't play. We're going to try to play this sport normally in the fall, in the spring. How serious, or even if it was a consideration, what was the decision-making process on that? Was it really ever at the forefront of your mind to potentially move sports to a different time of year?
Well, I think one of our responsibilities is to look at all avenues, and certainly I've heard, and the one that I've heard more than anything else is let's move football to the spring and baseball to the fall. And I have a lot of concerns with that, and two primary reasons. One, if you take baseball, move it to the fall, and it would become necessary to shut down our program in the fall. Kids that love baseball, families that love baseball would lose 2 seasons in a row.
Right.
And I that concerns me a lot. I also worry about the health and safety aspect of football. If we can test a season in the spring, and let's say we get done with our state championships in June, and then we turn right around and start another football season 4 to 6 short weeks later, I'm not sure that's best for kids and the safety of the sport.
Again, Paul Knighting, he is the commissioner-to-be of the IHSAA. He joins us here. Greg Rakestraw filling in for JMV 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Again, this isn't going to be blanket policy. It's going to be kind of, school corporation by school corporation. But now we are getting into where you're going to have some schools playing sports with having all classes online, and others will be hybrid. Others will be completely in person. As an association, Paul, how do you deal with something like that?
Well, we've actually looked at that. We've had some requests from member schools, and we've modified some of our rules to allow more flexibility at the local level to decide how they're going to educate their kids. At the very end, the premise that we have is they must be enrolled full time in the school that they're participating in, and whether it's done virtually or distance or e-learning or in the classroom, local schools get to make that decision. And we're certainly going to support what they feel is important within their communities. We've got some schools that are going all bricks and mortar, and kids want to participate after school around kids. They've got to go into the building. But we've got others that are allowing a virtual model.
When it comes to is there going to need to be a minimum number of regular season contests that a school has to play to then participate in the postseason? Or will, again, you view that potentially on a case-by-case basis if that issue comes up as we get into September and October?
It'll certainly be a case-by-case basis, Greg. And we're not going to – if the school's doing everything they can and, the cards don't lay out or play their way, we're going to be very flexible in allowing our member schools to participate in our tournaments. I mean, we have a great thing in this state where it's an all-in tournament. Everybody that plays gets to play in that tournament, and I certainly am not going to affect that by a school or a team falling one or two games short of the minimum, especially in a time like this.
Obviously, it is your job in your new position, and frankly, it was when you were on the executive committee and then for the last 2 years working full-time as an associate commissioner in the IHSA offices, to be talking to as many of the member schools as possible. But now these days, you've got just as much that is, I guess, outward communication. So from a standpoint of medical experts, governmental agencies, things like that, how much of your day seemingly has been taken up by conversations with those types of folks?
It's been quite a bit. I certainly have a lot of unsolicited opinions out there, and certainly those are important too. Though we listen to those, but we try to keep the great thing in Indiana is our association, the governor's office, the Department of Education, the state health department. There's no fences. It's one for all and all for one. And if we have a question, we know we can reach out and get that answer. And if they have a question of us and how we do things, they know they can reach out and get that answer from us. So I really feel good about that in the state of Indiana, because I tell you, I work with our colleagues in other parts of the country, and they don't have it like we do here in Indiana when it comes to everybody looking out for everybody else.
The last official conversation that you and I had in a public forum such as this was on my Zoom show a handful of weeks ago, and I have gotten a lot of mileage out of what you told me in terms of, I can't have long-range planning right now. My planning is 2 weeks at a time. So I guess I'll phrase it to you this way, Paul. What are your expectations for the next 2 weeks as far as the IHSAA are concerned?
Well, certainly Monday starts our traditional practice season. They come back into schools and they're with their coaches, and it's the start of our traditional fall season. And I think the thing that we'll be focusing on next is everybody's question, how many people can attend a contest? That's going to be first and foremost. And, there's some interpretation things that we've got to get from the state that we can provide some guidance. There's a possibility there may be a waiver that local health departments can issue if it's over 250 people. And we're going to be working to provide clarity to our schools on attendance numbers based upon the governor's 4.5 plan as it is today. So, again, that's where that 2 weeks comes in, because we know 2 weeks from now that could change.
I would be remiss in this forum, even though our attention is what's going forward. You and I were in the same room on Monday night honoring our shared friend and your colleague, Bobby Cox's retirement. what's some of the takeaways you take from his tenure and now to apply to your own as the 9th commissioner in the history of the Indiana High School Athletic Association?
Commissioner Cox certainly approached this job with grace and strength. He tried to listen. He did listen. He didn't jump to conclusions. But when it's time, at some point you got to make a decision.
Right.
And you got to make a fair decision, and you've got to do it with a conviction, and you can't waver when you have to make a decision, especially after you've gathered all the facts around that. And I think Commissioner Cox did a lot really well with that. And the other thing I learned from him is status quo is never an option. I mean, we've always got to be looking out. We've got to look around the corner. We've got to see what's next on the horizon. What's the IHSA need to adjust? What do we need to implement? What do we need to do to serve our community in the coming years? And I don't think we can sit back and just say, oh, it's pretty good right now, because pretty good is never good enough. We always need to strive to get better.
Oh, my friend, nothing is status quo these days. And grace and strength, we could all use a little bit of that right now. Good to catch up with you, as always, whether it's off the air or on. I know I'll see you at the office again real soon. Thanks, buddy.
We'll see you soon, and thank you. And, Greg, thank you for what you do for kids of Indiana.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. Paul Neidig, he is the commissioner of the IHSAA, following the footsteps of the retiring Bobby Cox. And he joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You don't have to get the switch out, Kyle, since I didn't name it for the last two guests. Sorry, Andy Moore. My bad. We'll fix that. We got like 3 more guests. You'll get your money's worth for the remainder of the show. You got something to say about what Paul just had to say? Best way to do it is via email or Twitter. Greg at 1070thefan.com, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. We'll go from one passion of mine to another, from high school sports to the Indy 11. The Indy 11 are really, really good. They won 4-1 last night. They've got the most points of any team in the USL Championship. And their head coach, Martin Runny, joins me next. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Make sure you visit 1075thefan.com to check out where the next Mountain Dew Indy 500 ticket stop at Kroger will be, so you can score some tickets to the race.
Hey, it's JMV for LD Smith Plumbing at 317-284-9526. They're the absolute best, and one thing you don't want to live without is a battery backup on your sump pump. And right now, LD Smith Plumbing is offering a free primary sump pump with installation on a battery backup system in your home. 317-284-9526. That's LD Smith Plumbing. The best at following CDC recommended guidelines. For more info online, ldsmithplumbing.com today.
Hey guys, thinking about a vasectomy but putting it off due to COVID-19? Now's actually a great time. Urology of Indiana is open for business and taking precautions to ensure patient safety and social distancing. You can schedule your procedure for a Thursday or Friday, then take the weekend to relax and recover. Their physicians perform vasectomies each day of the week, all year long, and are pros at what they do. They are board certified and have over 130 years of history in Indiana. My vasectomy at Urology of Indiana was simple and took only about 15 minutes. Soon after, I was out the door and on my way home. During my recovery, I took ibuprofen and was back to work in 3 days. Urology of Indiana has multiple vasectomy clinics, so chances are good there's one close to you. Schedule your appointment online today with Urology of Indiana at vasectomyindy.com. That's vasectomyindy.com.
The final 22 teams are ready to get back out on the court, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the top-rated sportsbook app. To celebrate the return of basketball, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all users a special odds boost for the first 3 days of the season. Bet 20 to win 100 on any team of your choosing. Taking advantage of these slam dunk offers is easy. All you have to do is sign up and navigate to the promotions tab within the app. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code WFNI when you sign up. And for a limited time, all users can get a special odds boost to bet 20 to win 100 on a team of your choosing. That's code WFNI. And boost your odds to 20 to win $100. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Indiana only. Other terms and conditions and eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Interesting times, Indy. It's good to know Rhino Shield's helping folks end their painting worries, like they did with Patty.
The summers would come and go, and I finally just said, got to get these two things painted. They look terrible, and it needs to be done, and that's how we got involved with Rhino Shield.
Our crews always follow Indiana guidelines on social distancing. We work outside while you're safe inside.
Colors matched up very well with our house, and they were in and out, no mess. It all looks great. I was very pleased.
Right now is the perfect time to get 15% off the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield.
Call Rhino Shield. The professional people is well worth the investment.
Call today for a free virtual presentation and ask for our showcase homes near you where you can see our finished product firsthand from the safety of your car. Here's Rhino Shield Shane Smith.
Call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Amazon is hiring near you. Earn a competitive wage and start as soon as 7 days. No resume or experience required. Health and safety are a top priority with all of our roles and sites. Amazon is taking precautions in our buildings to keep people healthy. Go to amazon.com/apply. That's amazon.com/apply. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning. Robert Kirby says they sell the American Standard brand because American Standard listens to the techs who install and service their products.
We went down to the factory and they want your feedback. Being in the field, you can actually see some things that they can change on the product to make it better. And right there on the line, they actually take your input.
Call Kirby Heating and Air Conditioning at 317-892-3614. Kirby is your trusted local independent American Standard dealer.
Don't miss Hubler Auto Group's summer celebration. Get road trip ready with huge savings and Hubler's exclusive 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Visit drivehubler.com.
The NBA season resumes with the Clippers facing the Lakers tonight at 8:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Awesome! Totally awesome! All right, Hamilton.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We roll along. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. He is back tomorrow because there's a backyard in Bourbon involved. He ain't missing that. And I forget the exact location. I've been seeing Twitter chatter about it throughout the course of the afternoon. John's got you covered on that tomorrow. You got the substitute teacher in the drivehubler.com studios today. Greg Rakestraw filling in. Last night, I was at my home away from home, and that would be Lucas Oil Stadium. The Indy 11 have not lost in that building for over 2 years, and that streak extended to 28 consecutive matches with a 4-1 victory over Hartford Athletic. This gentleman and I have a conversation every week for Soccer Saturday, and when I'm sitting in this chair during the week, it becomes on one of the regular programs as well. He is the head coach of the Indy 11 in Martin Rennie. Coach, good to catch up with you after victory, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right, obviously, in talking about the match immediately afterwards on TV last night, I know you felt largely good about it. Anything else after kind of doing some film study and digesting it that really struck you about the way things unfolded an evening ago?
No, I think I still feel largely good about it. I mean, we're in the middle of playing 5 games in 14 days. It's a pretty crazy schedule. A third of our season in 2 weeks, basically. And so there's not a lot of time to pick the bones out of everything. We definitely do that a little bit, but I think when you win 4-1 in a spell of games like this, to get your 6th win out of 7 games in the season, then you kind of have to just focus quite quickly on the next game, and then after that we can definitely analyze a little bit more. But right now, really happy with how the game went and how the players played.
I'm going to go back to the St. Louis game, not really to talk about the game, but to talk about how you go from that point to go playing on Wednesday. And so you play in St. Louis on Sunday. It's 4 o'clock Central Time. It's your earliest kickoff of the year. It's in the low 90s. The feels-like temperature is 100. And then you've got to get on a bus and come home, and you've got to play in 72 hours. So from a recovery, rehab, rest standpoint, what did you do to get the guys ready from Sunday evening to Wednesday evening?
Well, I think first of all, just tried to get the mental side of it right as quickly as possible. So just in the locker room afterwards, talking about, I think we'd outshot our opponents 20-2. So it was disappointing that we'd lost, but we hadn't necessarily played badly. And also, getting into context, we just come off a huge win away from home to Pittsburgh, and then it's another long trip to St. Louis. So just trying to get the mind in a good place to focus on the next game. And just talked about the positives of having a game so soon is that you can get that winning feeling back really quickly if you go out and earn it. And then that game against St. Louis kind of disappears. And so we talked about that. And then we made some rotations in the lineup to bring in some fresh legs. And the biggest thing really was just the players' mentality who weren't starting the game. They were really energetic and positive with their teammates, especially in the locker room before the game. And I could tell just going into it that energy was going to be really important, and it proved to be that way.
I'm thinking of a quote, and I know you do a great job of pulling from other sports and other aspects of life and apply that to your coaching. So I think of a quote from Brad Stevens: "The game honors toughness. The game rewards toughness." Well, one of your tougher cats is Drew Connor. We talked about him even at halftime, about the job he was doing in the first half, and go figure, a goal found him in half number 2. Your thoughts about the performance he had for you last night?
Yeah, I think, first of all, 2020 is the year for tough people. And we all need to be tough right now. And soccer is a game for tough people too, honestly. Like, it's a hard game. It has its ups and downs, just like most sports do. So the toughness is important in all of these things. But Drew Connor's a guy who has a lot of that, and he played fantastic yesterday. I think that his energy, his drive, his goal, his winning spirit, like his toughness and his spirit, comes a lot from his background. He grew up in Chicago, and lots of guys that I've coached from there have that same kind of edge to them, and it's fantastic to have players like that. And we've got a team full of them, and that's partly why we're doing well in difficult times.
Well, let's not miss the obvious here. Tyler Pasher has now scored 6 goals for you in 6 matches. He has the game-winning goal after Hartford finds a way to tie it early in the second half. It's less than 5 minutes later. Pasher finds the back of the net, and you don't trail the rest of the night. Where to begin to describe the season he is having for you to this point?
Yeah, I feel like it's really a continuation of last season. We moved him into a different position, into an attacking position, and as he learned that role, I just think he improved and got better and better throughout the year. And he started the season off just really where he left off last year, and it's great to see. It's great to see a player developing like that. It's great to see a player play into their potential, because he's got incredible ability, and to see him doing it week in and week out consistently and having fun and helping the team, it's just fun to see that as a coach, and it's something that you want to encourage, and you want to help more and more players find that ability of playing to their absolute best, because all these guys have got great talent. It's just getting it out of them and helping them continue to do it once they find that.
I found a nugget of a stat that I will use on the broadcast on Saturday. Neville Hackshaw now has completed 400 passes in 6 matches. You have 4 of the top 7 in terms of the league in completed passes during the course of a match. What does that number mean to you, Martin?
I think that shows that a lot of what we're trying to do in our philosophy and our game plan is working, because we do want to have the ball and we want to control games by moving the ball and keeping the ball and making the opponent run and get out of position. So the fact that we're showing highly on those statistics would indicate that we're managing to do something that we were setting out to do. So that's always important. But there's a lot of other things that we need to work on and do, and I think we're seeing positive stats in those areas as well, in terms of winning the ball back in the right areas, creating chances. We've created a lot of chances, getting shots on goal, things like that. And there's other areas where we've traditionally been very strong that we just need to tighten up a little bit and get a few more clean sheets. But overall, considering where we're at in the season, considering how disrupted this season has already been, I think we're really doing well, and we now need to just keep doing well.
Let's talk about a scouting report again. You're going to see Sporting Kansas City 2 for the second time in the span of 14 days. You referenced 5 and 14. You began that stretch with SKC 2. You see them again on Saturday night, and they're coming off, I think, an earned victory, because they've been playing awfully well. Didn't have a result to show for it. They got it last night, winning in Louisville. What do you expect from the Sporting Kansas City 2 side coming up on Saturday night?
Yeah, well, it was a hard game when we played them at home 2 weeks ago, and so I'm sure it'll be another tough game. I think they're a team that maybe people underestimate slightly, but they've got a lot of very talented players. They're not quite the same as other MLS2 teams in the sense that they have guys who are 22, 23, 24, guys who are really trying to get into Sporting Kansas City's first team. And so compared to some other MLS2 teams where it's 15, 16, 17-year-olds in their team, there's not really much of that with this team. So they've had, they put in a good performance against us since the restart. Then they put in a good performance against Louisville. We're unlucky not to win. And then they put in a good performance again against Louisville, and they did win. So it'll be another exciting game, one where the fans, I'm sure, will enjoy it. The fact that they're playing their third game in a week is also a positive factor for us. The fact that they've probably been on the road all week is probably going to be kind of hard on them as well. So we need to make sure that our energy is high and we come with another performance full of personality and character and do the things that we've been doing.
All right, couple questions for the bigger audience with us having this on the ride with JMV, with yours truly filling in today. I've spent the show talking about the various different things that are starting to intersect. The NBA restarts tonight. Major League Baseball restarted last week. But for all of these things, the Indy 11 are one of the few things you can actually go to and experience as a fan, even if it's a smaller crowd than you're used to. What is it like hearing the Brickyard Battalion and Indy 11 fans support you during the course of a home match?
Yeah, it's fantastic, especially in a time of so many uncertainties. I think it's fun to have people here watching us play. I think the atmosphere is fantastic within Lucas Oil, even if it's not full, because of the fact that it's a stadium that just holds the noise in there. So the atmosphere has been really good. I think that spurred the players on a lot. Saturdays, usually we end up with more people coming to the game. Obviously, there's a lot of protocols in place to keep everybody safe. Social distancing is at work in Lucas Oil, and all of it's going really as well as we could hope. And I hope on Saturday we get even more fans coming out, and I'm sure they'll enjoy it and see another great performance.
That sounds good. We'll let you go on that note, my friend. Congratulations on the victory. Take it easy, and we'll see you on Saturday night.
Thank you.
You got it. Martin Runnick, head coach of the Indy 11. And yes, if you listen to Soccer Saturday on Saturday morning, you will hear that conversation again on the program on Saturday morning. We'll also be joined by one of the goal scorers from last night in Nick Moon, his first Indy 11 goal, and a couple of other special guests on the program coming up Saturday morning, 9 a.m., here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. From football at Lucas Oil Stadium to football at Lucas Oil Stadium. I can talk both. Mike Chappell can talk the latter. He's been doing that since the Colts came to town all of 35 years ago. Chappie joins us next. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV, and you're listening to 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's JMV, and it's hard to believe we're already halfway through 2020. In addition to coming up with creative ways to spend the remaining days of your summer, how about budgetary goals? Look at your budget and set realistic spending and budget goals to reach by the end of this year. Informed Credit Union can help. 6 important numbers to check mid-year, like your credit score, debt-to-income ratio, and retirement savings rate. See the information and get all the financial guidance you need at a branch location or online, forumcu.com today.
They're breaking all the rules at Diamonds Direct with an unprecedented store-wide sale going on now. Save 20% and more on an expanded selection. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, including trunk loads of all new designer pieces flown in from around the world. But hurry, this first time ever 11-day sale ends this Sunday. In-store, online, and virtual. All options open. All merchandise included. Even thousands of engagement rings on sale. An extraordinary sale for an extraordinary time. 20% savings now through Sunday only. Only at Diamonds Direct.
Keystone at the Crossing.
I always remember Sarah's, Caitlin's youngest, June 21st, because it's right around the equinox, almost always good weather. My husband's a winter baby, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. And my dad's was the 11th. Mother's was on October 2nd, kicking off a month of Octobers. My brother's on 10/10, my sister's 5 days later. And the Halloween baby, my youngest Kevin, on the 30th, which is actually Halloween Eve, of course.
You're good at remembering birthdays. We're good at your insurance. Start with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance and stop knocking on wood.
Bowling, 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 keep them balls a-rolling. Bowling, 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 Royal Pin.
Bowling's back. Same great game, new rules. They're now taking league sign-ups at Royal Pin Entertainment. Bowling in a league is fun, and they have leagues for beginners as well as the competitive bowler. Don't have a team? Don't worry. They'll match you up with others that just want to have fun. All bowlers become Open Lane Rewards members, earning money-saving discounts. Gather your crew and join in at one of Royal Pin Entertainment's modern locations. To join one of Royal Pin Entertainment's leagues and check out their bowling specials, simply download the Open Lane app. Look them up at royalpin.com or give them a call at 465-8484. Get ready to roll at Royal Pin Entertainment.
Royal Pin Bowling.
Royal Pin.
Pat Sullivan here for the Michaelis Corporation. They've been in business for over 35 years. I'm here with James Porter to talk about how Michaelis responds to emergency weather situations. James, what are some of the situations that you walk into as a Michaelis representative?
Heavy wind damage, heavy rain damage, and sub-zero temperatures like burst pipes.
When dealing with homeowners that have just had a major event, what can you do to be a calming presence?
First, be empathetic. For most people, this is the first time something like this has happened to them. Secondly, managing expectations. Being realistic with them and explaining the timelines of what's going to happen next.
Is part of that process working with their insurance company?
Absolutely. For a situation that can be quite traumatic, we try to make this as easy on the homeowner as possible.
If you have a weather-related emergency, call the Michaelis Corporation anytime, 24/7. The number, 844-FIX-INDY, or online at michaeliscorp.com. The Michaelis Corporation. Construct, renovate, restore.
SportsCenter updates on the Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Get up to $150 off select sets of tires only at Big O Tires, the team you trust.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
The Pacers resume the NBA season against Philadelphia Saturday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Let me have a Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper. Make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Indiana Pacers are back as of Saturday. It'll be a little while before the Indianapolis Colts play a game, but they are back. Workouts taking place out at 56th Street, a training camp unlike one that it simply has never been before. But the man to cover it for CBS 4 and Fox 59 is our buddy Mike Chappell, who joins us now. Chappie, how we doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing fine. What was the longest training camp you have covered so far in your days covering the Indianapolis Colts?
Well, back in the day, these players did nothing in the off season, and they came in the 80s and had to really get into shape. Those were long days. When 2 days, Rick Venturi, when they had 2 days, they had 2 days in pads. So the longest one I can remember, I can't remember what year it was, but they played in the Hall of Fame game against Pittsburgh or New Orleans. I can't think who it was. And God, we were in camp in Anderson on like July 7th.
Wow!
It was unbelievable. And the dorms that we were at for workday in Anderson, they weren't air conditioned, and we were in there was a quad outside our windows, and they always had band camp when we were there, and they always put those damn drums right in front of our windows. But with myself and Tom Reitman on all those days, but it's different. It's funny when we always laugh with Rick Venturi when Pagano and even Dungy and Frank Reich when they say we're going to have tough training camps and practices we're going to hit, and then we go out there and watch them, and it's not what it used to be. It just for a lot of reasons. But this one, what people need to get used to is when Frank Reich said yesterday, we're a long way from normal. This is a new normal. So this camp and this season, we hope there's a season start to finish. It will be like you said, like nothing before it.
So, again, that was 8 or 9 weeks worth of camp back then. And, again, that's counting preseason games. Not all of it at Anderson. This will be basically 7 weeks worth. But, again, what would normally look like camp that's still kind of a couple, 3 weeks away, correct?
Yeah, the first couple of weeks, I get to listen for like X number of days. It's strength and conditioning, whether it's 6 or 8, and then then you go to a next phase, which is on field, doing football stuff. You can't do 11-on-11 padded until the 16th or 17th of August. So count back from the 13th. You're talking, is it 4 weeks of actual football? Heavy football before you start playing. So and we asked, with Frank yesterday, and I asked him, how do you balance having to get ready without preseason games, which, it's funny how we all bemoan preseason games, but all of us would admit that there is value in it. There are value in games for, I don't know about that, but you have to get ready for the season while balancing not pushing players too hard too fast, because while you're doing the acclimation, strength conditioning now, it's still, it's just different when you start playing hard practices. So, and as much as players have done it on their own in the off season, it's not the same. It just is. And the one thing that they don't want to have is 12 guys having pulled hamstrings or worse to make the camp even more taxing. So this is going to really, I guess, stress coaching 101 to how you get ready for a season in a camp, again, we'll keep saying, like something you've never been through before.
Position battles were briefly brought up yesterday. I was in the same calls that you were with Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, and it took a while for us to get to what we would call normal football.
Right.
Am I wrong when I say the best position battle on this team might be for the kicker's position?
Well, it's the most important. So yes. It's funny you'd say, well, normally you're going to go with the veteran guy, or at least he's got the leg up. No pun intended. But McLaughlin was a rookie last year, so it's not like he's got a deep resume. So yeah, there's no question that between Chase McLaughlin and in Blankenship, they've got to get it right. I remember talking to Pat McAfee when he was with the team, and he always pointed out that everybody's job's important, but the kicker, your place kicker, is the only guy that every time he's on the field, he's got points. He's got points hanging in the balance, and it's so true. So, and how many games did poor kicking cost him last year? 2, 3? I could argue 3. Just with all the injuries, with Brissett declining and all that stuff. If 3 kicks are made, maybe 2 field goals and an extra point or whatever, this is a playoff team, and then the optics are totally different. So they need to get that right, and how the heart. And this is one where preseason games are going to be missed. You just can't simulate in practice. Okay, now listen, this is, there's 2 minutes to play, and we're on the 40, and we need this. We're down 2. It's not the same as getting out there against whomever. Even the god awful 4th game against the Bengals. It serves the purpose of when you go out there in a preseason game, it means something. There are points put up there, and they've got to, as much as they can, like both Frank and Chris told us yesterday, they're going to create pressure situations as best they can. Now, what are you going to do if he misses it? You cut him. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. But that's one. They talked linebacker. And what was the other position he talked about?
Defensive line. Back. Yeah, a little bit.
Defensive line, which is that's one where you got a bunch of guys who can play. How you going to play them? But linebacker and kicker is without question will draw the most attention because, again, of the impact that had last year, and how you've got. This will be the first time since '98, I think it is, that they will have legitimate competition at kicker. Remember, it was Mike Vanderjagt and Kerry Blanchard. I can still remember talking to Blanchard out in the parking lot. He was PO'd big time that they let him go and kept Vanderjagt. And Vanderjagt worked pretty well, and until it didn't. But what's crazy is I went back and looked. They've had 5 kickers, 5 in 30 some years.
Wow!
On their opening day roster, So this is uncharted territory for these guys.
All right, I'm enough of a nerd. Let me see if I can rattle these off.
Okay.
Let's see here. Biasucci.
Yep.
Kofer.
Nope.
So he didn't
Opening day roster.
Opening day roster.
Opening day kicker.
Blanchard.
Yep.
Vinatieri.
Yep.
Vanderjagt.
Yep.
So Allegre has to be the first one, correct?
There you go.
All right.
Yep. So they've had a few kickers again, like you mentioned, Kofer and people like that. But opening day 5, I was going to work on how many of other teams had and all that. Dallas, I just went back to '98, I think it was, or whatever, and maybe it was Vinatieri in '06. Dallas had 15. So it's just, and it's almost the same at punter. Remember all those years with Hunter Smith and all of a sudden I'm missing the left-footed kicker before him.
Chris Gardocki.
And McAfee and now Rigo and long snappers. It's the same, starting with like Bradford Banna, Pat Beach. They've only had 4 or 5 guys. It's funny, Justin Snow is in the record books as like 3rd or 4th most games played for the Colts. So it's so many years in the past, special teams. What do you got special team about? Well, we got that done. We're not worried about that. But, again, I'll harp on this. They need to get this right, and they'll do whatever they can to get it right.
You can almost say the same thing about quarterback, and obviously that changed last year, and then it changed again this offseason. So because we haven't been able to see him other than be impressed by him on Zoom calls, he's won the press conference.
Right.
I'll rephrase it this way. What questions do you have about Phillip Rivers at this point, Chappie?
Which one is he? Is he 2018 Rivers or 2019 Rivers? There's nothing in my mind. Hopefully we get him next week or the week after on Zoom, but I'm not sure what he can tell us. We need to see it. And this isn't the same at all. But I remember when Peyton went down in 2000 when he didn't play in 11, and last minute, remember they got Kerry Collins.
Right.
Well, okay, maybe he would be short term, and it was awful. From the first day you saw him on the field, it was like he can't play.
Yeah.
That's not Rivers at all. I'm telling you that. But he needs to be able to do his job at the right level. And if Rivers can be closer to 18 than 19, then this is a pretty good team. It really is. I think it's deep at all the right places. Offensive line, I wouldn't say it's deep, but you got the 5 studs up there, and you hope they can play most of the season. But if Rivers doesn't work, and if all the naysayers who say his arm's not what it used to be, and he can't push the ball, and he takes too many risks, this team's not good enough to overcome, 20 or more interceptions. I mean, few teams are. But if he can just lean on the running game, which they will, and let the offensive line do its job, and the defense is going to be better. And I don't know what the bottom line season is: 25 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, which may be a bit high, and 4,000 yards. If they do that, this is a playoff team.
Again, Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 9, our guest. He joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Greg Rakestraw in for JMV. We are now in year 10 of the NFL Network having the top 100 players, and this is something the players vote. They vote for 20. You then compile this list, and that's how you get from 1 through 100. And these rankings tend to be kind of like preseason games. If you agree with them, you talk a lot about them. And if you don't, you tend to sweep them under the rug. So with that, I thought this was an interesting note that Quentin Nelson, this was the highest rated in the 10-year history of those rankings. He was the highest rated guard in the history of those rankings. I'm not sure it means anything, but what does that tell you about just how high of regard he isn't just held here in Indianapolis, but throughout the National Football League? And he's done that in 2 years. Right. That's what's amazing. And to me, the NFL has always been about, Venturi and I go about around this all the time. We tend to agree with most of it. It's those premier positions, quarterback and pass rusher and, left tackle. And, boy, you get those 3 guys and then get you the weak side linebacker like a Leonard who makes plays. Guard, I mean, I just remember back in the day, guards were guards. They were just
They were just, you needed them because you had. But I when I look at this offensive line, and I still would argue, and I'd probably be slapped down by Ballard, but if you told me that I had to play 2 months without Quentin Nelson or Anthony Costanzo,
I know where you're going. Yeah,
I want Costanzo to be my left tackle.
Right.
And that's not to diminish Nelson at all. But if a guard grades out 100% every game, okay. But having said that, he's going to be, if he stays on the field, he's going to be one of those generational guards. And what did he pull in? How high was he ranked again? 29?
I think it was 29 overall. Yeah. Yes.
And again, he's played 2 years. He's been All-Pro. All that. He's going to set All-Pro, Pro Bowl records that we haven't seen in a long time. I'm wondering how much motivation Darius Leonard is going to have from, was he 50? He'll be extremely PO'd over that because this is a guy that what I tell you, and it works.
Right.
He's like Robert Mathis. You look for disrespect even when it may be not there. It served Mathis very well in what's a Hall of Fame worthy career, and Leonard's doing that. The only thing about these lists is it's almost more for what we're doing, talking about it.
Of course.
But whenever you see Patrick Mahomes is number 4, does it invalidate it? I just kind of wonder, and that's not to pile on Lamar Jackson at all. But so I and sometimes we're in the locker room and you sort of see how these players.
Right. Correct. Yes.
The attention span they do with these in the biases they bring.
Do I really have to vote on this? Yes, you do. There's a person following you around. Absolutely. I cut you off, but you're singing with the same hymnal. There's a person following. Please vote for this. Hey, when you got to get this done, could you please turn this in? You and I saw the exact same thing happen last year. Yes.
Right. And again, that's why people have always said, well, you need to have players have more of a voice in the Pro Bowl, and even players have more of a voice in Hall of Fame voting. They want players as if players won't bring their own biases to the process, which you're supposed to be as objective as possible. So it is funny when you see these rankings and the top receivers and the top. I remember T.Y. Hilton a couple of years ago got out of sorts because he wasn't considered a top 10 receiver. This was prior to the last 2 years of injuries. But if it motivates you, super. But the people who put these out, NFL.com, NFL Network, ESPN, whatever, Pro Football Focus, like Pro Football Focus, I think it was, has the Colts linebackers ranked number 5. It's either Pro Football Focus or the Network. Their linebackers are 5th in the league.
Yeah.
So you're right. If you agree with it, you beat the drum board. If you don't, you say it's trash, and it's obviously somewhere in between. But that's to me that's almost like the magic of the NFL, to where we're sitting here having this discussion over a ranking of players when you know the players really don't give a whole heck a lot of concern about it. But it's serving the purpose they want. That's attention. Talk about our product.
Before we let you go, final thing. We won't obviously have the normal markers in terms of what we look for to say, okay, here's where we can measure progress in the preseason. So once the pads come on, not until a couple of weeks down the road, what are the things that you will have a chance to watch in practice where you will actually be able to tell, okay, I can see where progress is made, or I can see where there's a cause for concern?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do think one thing we're going to have is the ones on the ones, which is what we normally have in camp. So you will see is the defense struggling, is the offense ahead, is Rivers, back in the Manning days, the ball never hit the field and they just carve people up.
Right.
We're not looking for that from Rivers, but how efficiently are they doing? What I get more out of camp, and a lot of us do, is how are players playing where? Who's your nickel linebackers? Is it Leonard Okereke? Is it Leonard Walker? How are you doing your corners? Is Kenny Moore a starting corner, or do you do with Yasin and Rhodes and Moore is your nickel guy? That's where I kind of look at it, but. I think it's going to be harder without preseason games to kind of know where you're at. You're almost going to go into that opening game sort of, I don't say blind because you're going to have had a month of practice, but after you always hear these guys that you need to, hey, we need to play against somebody else. We need to have Cleveland come in for a scrimmage because we're getting tired of going against the rest of stuff. I know what this guy's moves are. So we're not going to have that luxury this year. And I'm not saying that we're going to go back to praying for 4 preseason games next year, but we're going to see there was a value at some level in at least that first half of the third preseason game, and we're going to miss that, I think.
Chappie, as the voice of the preseason on TV, I'm praying for 4 preseason games next year, but I may be a little bit biased when it comes to that perspective. I will see you at.
We all have our biases,
and I admit mine openly and freely. Yes, I will see you at practice at some point when we're both wearing a mask from 6 feet apart. Take care, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Be well.
You got it, buddy. Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 59, and he joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. From one good friend to another, from Colts to Pacers, the television voice of the Indiana Pacers, Chris Denari. He's been working during these last 3 preseason or second season or exhibition or scrimmage games, whatever we're calling them. The real thing, as much as it's going to be the real thing for the rest of this year, comes up Saturday. CD's got the call of Pacers and Sixers. Of course, Mark Boyle has it right here on Saturday. We'll talk about it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
SportsCenter updates on The Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Get up to $150 off select sets of tires only at Big O Tires, the team you trust.
Hey, it's JMV for LD Smith Plumbing at 317-284-9526. They're the absolute best, and one thing you don't want to live without is a battery backup on your sump pump. And right now, LD Smith Plumbing is offering a free primary sump pump with installation on a battery backup system in your home. 317-284-9526. That's LD Smith Plumbing. The best at following CDC recommended guidelines. For more info online, ldsmithplumbing.com today.
Hi, I'm Rick Edelman with a warning. Millions of people are buying stocks they think are low in price. Watch out. A lot of investors have no idea the risks they're taking. But you're holding steady, right? You haven't made a trade all year. That could be a problem too. With COVID on the scene, you might need more in cash than before, and maybe you need to reduce your market risk as well. Are you sure your portfolio is COVID ready? Call us at Edelman Financial Engines, and let's review your investments and your entire financial situation and see if you're in good shape as this crisis continues. It's not the time to go it alone. Call us at 888-PLAN-RIC. Talk with one of my colleagues here at Edelman Financial Engines. We'll review your portfolio and make sure you're ready for what comes next. And we'll help you get through this crisis just like we've helped clients get through every crisis for the past 35 years. Call us at 888-PLAN-RIC. That's 888-PLAN-RIC. Online at ricedelman.com.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Trading in or selling your car, truck, or SUV? WeBuyAnyCar.com takes the hassle out of selling in just 3 easy steps. 1. Get your free online valuation. 2. Drive to your local car buying center. And 3. Walk out with your check in as little as 30 minutes. So don't wait. Get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Interesting times, Indy. It's good to know Rhino Shield's helping folks end their painting worries, like they did with George.
Our house is a Victorian-style house. I was happy that I would get a product that would last as long as Rhino Shield would.
Our crews always follow Indiana guidelines on social distancing. We work outside while you're safe inside.
So they did a wonderful job making sure that everything was done to the way we wanted it handled.
Right now is the perfect time to get 15% off the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield.
Yeah, Rhino Shield on the house for 2.5 years. It looks just like the day that they applied the finish to the house.
Call today for a free virtual presentation and ask for our showcase homes near you where you can see our finished product firsthand from the safety of your car. Here's Rhino Shield Shane Smith.
Call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
We all see the world a little differently now. We notice little things we used to take for granted, like driving. Something as simple as just hopping in the car to go to work or take the kids to school. But roads don't just happen. They're built by men and women living in central Indiana. It's as easy to take those workers for granted as the concrete and asphalt you drive on. Union members of Laborers Local 120 maintain and build Indy's roads, bridges, and highways. They're the ones you pass as you drive by the orange barrels. It's hard work. It's dangerous work. And yet there they are, doing the essential work to make sure you have a smoother, safer ride to your destination. And just like you, they want to get home safe too. So, sure, take the roads for granted. But remember the local workers who make them safe for you.
This is Ward Daniels, business manager of Labor's Local 120. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the Cone Zone. Slow down, open your eyes, pay attention.
A message from Indiana Laborers Local 120.
Can you believe it? Pro basketball tips off again tonight, and Bet Rivers Sportsbook is your home for wagering on all pro basketball matchups. I'm Mike Wells here to tell you that you can get in on all the action today with Bet Rivers' best offer. Get up to a $250 bonus on your first deposit at Bet Rivers. There's no filler in these matchups. Go to BetRivers.com to legally bet on sports online in Indiana. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. 1-800-994-8448. 1-800-994-8448.
Check out 1075thefan.com for a list of all 11 Kroger ticket stops for your chance at Indy 500 tickets, courtesy of Mountain Dew. 500 miles, fueled by Dew.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Bill Polian, how do you feel the Colts stack up in this environment?
This is a young veteran team with a veteran quarterback who's still pretty much at the top of his game. The key is Paris Campbell. If Campbell can come back off injury and perform the way everybody knows he can, you're in pretty good shape.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings, 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries.
It's quite pungent. It stings the nostrils.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's so weird when you hear this on like the Fox college basketball package. I mean, again, it's synonymous with basketball, but with the NBA, I don't think TNT's going to roll this out tonight when the NBA resumes. But you can hear the Fox theme when the Indiana Pacers resume their season. Finally, I think today is day 141 without the NBA, and it ends. Tack on 2 days for the Indiana Pacers on the back end, one more on the front end. It's been 144 days in between games for the Indiana Pacers as of Saturday. And the man that was on the call, the last one, who'll have the call of the next one and several more after that, is our buddy Chris Denari, who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. CD, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. We're actually talking about games.
I know, right?
I've done so many radio interviews in the 4 months prior. It's nice to actually talk about a game.
Well, of course, me being me, I'll be a nerd and I'll talk about the actual broadcast itself, and then we'll talk about the games. You getting adjusted to calling a game off of a monitor and not what you see being courtside?
Yeah, I mean, really, the adjustment has not been too bad. I give a lot of credit to our staff at Bankers Life Fieldhouse because you also have to understand there's a lot of construction going on in phase 1 of the Fieldhouse of the future. So they work really hard. I've got a big monitor. I don't know how big it is. It's 100, 120, whatever. It's pretty big in front of me, and then there are 4 screens below. I always have an all 10.
Yep.
So I'm seeing some things like you would see in the truck. So really what I've said is once you get into the course of the game, sure, it's different, but you get into the game flow. Quinn's sitting about 10 feet away from me on my left. We're both together. I mean, you're watching and listening broadcasts all over the country being done differently. I watched Major League Baseball on ESPN last night. John Shambi is in Connecticut. Rick Sutcliffe is in San Diego, and Chipper Jones was in Atlanta. And they're, 2 of them are doing them from their houses. At least we're in Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and we're together, and we're putting it on the air. So I've had a background of doing it. We did the 2 India games earlier in the year from a studio. I've probably done 5 to 8 WNBA games over my career in a studio. I know you know what it's like to do Indy 11 road games from a studio. So it can be done. It's not what you want to do, but in this day and age, I'm just happy to be doing it.
It sounds great. Good way to end that part of the discussion. Now on to the games. When do we expect a decision from Mr. Oladipo about Saturday evening's contest?
Well, I would think that would come today. The team practices later today. In fact, they may be on the practice floor right now. I think they meet with the media via Zoom about 7:45. Every indication that I feel is that he's going to play. I mean, we saw him play the 3 scrimmages. I thought he was really good in the second one against Dallas. Didn't shoot it particularly well in games 1 and 3, but I think has looked good. He's not the Victor of old, but I don't think we expected that after a 4.5-month absence and trying to get back after the injury. So I would anticipate that he's going to play, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Is the assumption that Domantas Sabonis maybe for the playoffs, maybe not for August? What can you tell us about Domas at this point?
Well, once he does come back, he has to re-quarantine, and he's not been on the floor for, a week or 10 days. So we don't know how his rehab or his assessment on the plantar fascia is going out in Los Angeles. I would have to believe that the earliest the Pacers, if he's able to play, and we don't know whether he is or not, we sure hope he can, I would have to believe that would be at the start of the playoffs, because once the regular season starts on Saturday, you play every other day with a back-to-back thrown in. And, in fact, the Pacers have their only back-to-back on Monday and Tuesday against Washington and Orlando. I think it would be a lot to ask to have him get back and to be able to play in the seeding games. But the good news is they have a playoff spot secure.
Right.
They can be no worse than number 6. So if you got him back toward the end of the seeding games, but more importantly had him for the postseason, that's really what you want.
There's no one that can replicate what he does for that team. So how does this team offensively look different without Domas on the floor?
Well, they have to play differently because they're smaller. Miles Turner moves into the post. I think he's played very well in his first 2 scrimmages. This team has taken more three-pointers than they did during the regular season. During the regular season, they averaged about 27 attempts per game. That was dead last. In the 3 scrimmages, they're number 20. And in the first couple, they took more than 30. I think you see the second unit really pushes the tempo with T.J. McConnell. You've got 3-point shooters who are having the best years of their career in Doug McDermott and Justin Holiday. I just think you have to play a little bit differently. You have to play faster. They will do that with the 3-guard lineup to start. Aaron Holiday will join Malcolm Brogdon and Victor Oladipo. So I just think you have to find a different way to play. And Greg, to be honest, they've had to do that throughout the year.
Right.
They've had so many injuries. Brogdon and Oladipo only played 10 games together. The starting lineup that we thought we would see at some point, Warren, Oladipo, Brogdon, Turner, Sabonis, they've played 6 games together, 84 minutes. So I think that's a tribute to Coach McMillan, what he's been able to do this year.
Again, Chris Denari, television voice of the Indiana Pacers. He and Quinn Buckner, Jeremiah Johnson have all the action from the television side. Mark Slick, everybody else on the radio side, you hear them here beginning Saturday at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. You're part of probably all the different Pacers Zoom calls as far as getting the players' feedback, quotes, conversations during the course of a daily basis, maybe even some behind-the-scenes stuff that others don't have access to as well. If there was kind of a general theme about feedback, about what this experience has been like for these guys, because they've been down there for 3 weeks, and we talk about how excited you and I are that the season is restarting, I would think that would be tenfold for these guys. If there's a common theme of those conversations, Chris, what would they be?
Well, this is a team with great character and great camaraderie, so I think they've enjoyed being around each other. And it will get a little bit easier as the season restarts because you're playing every other day. And so you've got games and practices to focus on. But as Malcolm Brogdon has said during these Zoom calls, he goes, hats off to the NBA with what they've been able to do and what they've been able to put together really in a short time frame. And I think they're all just, really happy that, they're able to do this, that they're able to play and also, have a stage because of all the things that have happened in our country,
sure.
Through COVID and social justice. So I think these guys are excited about what they're going to be able to do, to be able to play the game that they love. And man to man, every Pacer has been very positive about his experience down in Orlando so far.
All right, so I asked you about feedback from the players about this experience. What sort of feedback have you gotten from fans that have now, as I mentioned, have gone nearly 5 months without watching the Indiana Pacers play? What are those conversations been like with you and fans from March 10th until this week?
Well, everywhere I go, if I'm at the gas station or at the coffee shop or whatever, some of them, are you finally going back to work? Because there was probably a time in there I let that beard go a little bit, and it was a little grayer than usual. So, no, I think fans are excited, and we saw that with the streaming games. So the numbers were very good, and it was difficult to find because some people's internet wouldn't allow it, and the NBA TV was blacked out, yet people were still finding the games, and the numbers were good. Now the numbers will be much better because now they're all on Fox Sports Indiana starting on Saturday with that pregame show at 6:30. So I just think fans are hungry. We've been blessed over the last month or so to see golf come back, the PGA Tour. We had IndyCar racing. We had NASCAR. Well, now we're able to see the team sports. MLS has been underway. The USL, the Indy 11 are playing. Well, now we get to see baseball and basketball, and hopefully at some point the NFL and college sports. I've been following that as well with the high schools and the colleges. It's just a tough situation. First of all, we want everybody to be healthy and safe, but we also want to enjoy our sports. So fortunately, the NBA is down in a bubble. They had no positive tests for COVID-19 in the latest testing, so all has gone well, and we're just built to follow sports, and I think people are excited to watch.
I was still stuck on the line, are you finally going back to work? Because anybody that's known Chris, finding work has never been an issue for Chris. It was rare last summer when he decided to not have some work. That was a change of pace for our buddy Chris Tenera. All right, final thing before I let you go. Clearly, the team you most want to see or are most interested in would be the Pacers. But if there's another team in the Eastern or even the Western Conference that are in this bubble that you're kind of looking forward to watching and saying, you know what, I'm curious to see how the mix is going to work. Another team you got your eyes on right now besides the blue and gold?
I think what I really am going to be fascinated by, Greg, is the battle for the 8th seed in the West.
Yeah.
Memphis is there with Ja Morant. Right behind them, Portland with Damian Lillard. New Orleans. I mean, that's going to be fascinating to watch because all you have to do to be the number 9 seed is be 4 games behind the number 8, and then you have a chance in a play-in situation, just like the NCAA tournament, to make your case to be a playoff team. So I really think that's going to be fascinating because all of those teams play each other in these next 8 games, and the question will be, can Zion and the New Orleans Pelicans get hot and try to get that number 8 seed? Because I think a lot of people would be intrigued to see a first-round matchup between the Lakers and LeBron and New Orleans and Zion.
The Indiana Pacers are back in action as of Saturday night. The NBA is back as of tonight. And, of course, every Pacers game can be seen on Fox Sports Indiana and heard right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I am so glad you are back to work. I have actually left some remnants of the quarantine beard. I assume you are clean shaven. No such beard is available to see on Chris Teneri's face right now.
No. I mean, I have a little bit of a beard today, but I won't have a beard on Saturday.
It's gone.
It'll be clean shaven by Saturday afternoon.
You're the best, my friend. Happy for you, buddy. Enjoy it on Saturday night.
All right, thanks, Greg.
You got it. Chris Tenera, television voice of the Indiana Pacers. And again, he joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. That's an impressive 6-pack of guests that we have just rolled through in the last 2+ hours on the show. I have not left much in the way of time for all y'all, as we would say, back in southern Indiana. And yes, I'm from much farther south than JMV is. So, 317-239-1070, at Greg Rakestraw on Twitter. Email the program as well, Greg at 1070thefan.com. Your thoughts on any of our topics, any of our guests, and what else we have missed today in the world of sports. When we come back and wrap up this edition of the show, the Substitute Teacher Edition. John is back tomorrow on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kids, tell your parents about Forum Credit Union's Sprout of the Month contest, where you could win $100 in a Sprout account for college. Details at 1075thefan.com.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Marshall Mechanical. Owner Eric Marshall says his company's growth has come from inside and outside the business.
Word-of-mouth referrals always been a positive way to grow our business. We focused a lot more on employee growth and trying to find the right attitude for our employees and train them to be the technicians that we desire. So it's really worked out well.
Call Marshall Mechanical at 317-738-5940 or go to callthemarshallnow.com. Marshall is your trusted local independent American Standard dealer.
Did you know Geico's now offering an extra 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies? That's 15% on top of what Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Your dentist to actually believe you?
And you're flossing every day.
Absolutely.
Great. And you're cutting down on your sweets?
Of course.
Wonderful. Then I don't even need to look in there.
Great. See you in 6 months.
There's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Limitations apply. Visit geico.com for details.
Geico knows there are many reasons why you ride. From the thrill of the revving engine and pure adrenaline of flying down the highway, to the confidence of knowing that Geico always has your back with 24/7 access to claim service. But Ari Snyder has one reason in particular.
I have extremely large upper arms. They won't even fit into most shirts. Thankfully, biking really embraces vest culture, so I feel accepted.
Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
It started with a road trip into the American Midwest. Huntington bankers with one mission: to understand how people made sense of money. And that's how we met Brenda.
How do I control money? Envelopes. The first of the month, I divide up my cash. One envelope for groceries, one for gas, one for fun. It helps plan out my spending.
And that's how we came up with digital envelopes for your checking account. Our customers give us the best ideas. Huntington, welcome. Member FDIC. Learn more at huntington.com.
Pat Sullivan here for the Michaelis Corporation, now in business over 35 years. I'm here with Bart Fisher to talk about how Michaelis helps with water emergencies. Bart, water issues can take many, many forms.
That's right, Pat. Water seeping into basements from heavy rains, sewer backups, or pipes bursting anywhere in the house. Some of those pipes might be upstairs in a bathroom or laundry room that cause damage throughout the home.
All right, so you call Michaelis. What's next?
Well, we work with plenty of plumbing companies throughout central Indiana, so if a plumber is needed, we can get you to one. Then we start the drying out process, which limits any mold issues in the future. And finally, we restore damage back to the like new state.
When it comes to dealing with the homeowner's insurance, does Michaelis handle that as well?
Yes, we do the legwork with the insurance companies and subcontractors to make this process as painless as possible.
If you have a water emergency, call Michaelis anytime, 24/7, the number 844-FIX-INDY, or visit michaeliscorp.com. The Michaelis Corporation. Construct, renovate, restore.
Hey, it's JMV. The largest and best medical hair restoration clinic in the Midwest is now open. PAI's We Grow Hair Indy new office is on the first floor in the Pyramids Building number 2. This is a great time to get your hair and confidence back. Here's Darren Andrews to explain what you'll find in We Grow Hair Indy's new facility.
We look forward to seeing you at our larger and more spacious facility. We now offer more comfort and space to help you grow your hair back. From the ARTIS robotic FUE and our trademark procedure multi-unit hair grafting to the new FDA-approved Synetics lasers and PRP, rest assured, we have the technology and experience to give you the best results.
Do what I did. Call 888-724-5129 for a free in-person or virtual evaluation right now. Call 888-724-5129 and see my results at WeGrowHairIndy.com. That's 888-724-5129. WeGrowHairIndy.com. Grow your hair back today. Hey, it's JMV, and they're breaking all the rules at Diamonds Direct with an unprecedented store-wide sale going on now through Sunday. Save 20% and more on an expanded selection, including trunk loads of all new designer pieces flown in. Response so far has been incredible. People are saving at least 20% off Diamonds Direct's already super low, unbeatable prices. It's the best and biggest sale of the year. Don't miss the store-wide savings. An extraordinary sale for an extraordinary time. 20% off savings now through Sunday only at Diamonds Direct. That's Keystone at the Crossing.
Coming up Friday morning on the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Big Joe is back, and we'll get you ready to go for the restart of the Pacers season on Saturday night. It's Friday morning at 7 here on the Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
The sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We will go through the guest list in case you missed it. That's why God invented a podcast at 1075thefan.com. But as promised, I think it's time for your segment of the program. I wouldn't say I've carried the heavy lifting. The guests have. Kyle Udemark has on the show today. But I haven't had time for folks to chime in on Twitter or email or via the telephone lines. That's Fix That Now. Dominic is up first at 317-239-1070. Dominic, how you doing?
Good, Greg. How are you? Great show today.
I appreciate that, buddy. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so I really liked your interview with the commissioner there. I know I'm super excited to cover high school athletics here in the fall with A1, Rick Semler. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this college football. You mentioned earlier in the show how Louisville, Kentucky won't be able to play, Georgia Tech, and the list goes on and on with in-state rivals. I feel like the restriction as far as college football teams go should be travel-based.
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense to me that Georgia and Georgia Tech can't play, but in the Big Ten, Rutgers can travel to Nebraska and play. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
You know, and obviously I don't have the Big Ten schedules memorized as much as I used to. And so are they set to play? They might be, and I don't know. I would imagine though that you will have, you may have some schedule change to try to prevent that, to keep guys on buses. I know in what I deal with the Indy 11, basically they are told, hey, if your trip is less than 500 miles, you can't get on a plane. You have to be on a bus. But at the same time, these guys are all flying charter anyway. And so, you're not exposing people outside of your team and traveling party to other people until you get to the football game itself. So, I mean, I get it. What that issue is, if Louisville and Kentucky can't play and Georgia Tech can't play, that's the two conferences not making a decision together. That's the ACC saying, hey, we're going to leave this window open for you to play your big rivalry game, and the SEC saying, hey, no thanks, we're good. So if you're the Big Ten, could you alter the schedule so the teams that are on the bookends don't play each other? Yeah, you could, but it's not like you're taking public transport to get there in the first place anyway, Dom.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, really loved your show today. Listened all the way through, so great stuff, Greg.
Thank you, pal. I kept you awake. That's a good sign after 2 hours and 45 minutes. Dominic, thank you very much. Good to hear from you, as always. 317-239-1070. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can also tweet to me at Greg Rakestraw. You can email the show to greg@1070thefan.com. One thing to share from a news standpoint, Cubs and Reds set to have a 6:10 first pitch in their series finale at Great American Ballpark. That will not be happening. They've been dealing with rain the way that we have been, and Kyle's eyebrows lift up. When I tell you a delay, you almost think, COVID? No, rain. Mother Nature, the typical reason why games are delayed, not postponed, but that first pitch will not take place on time because of rain. Now, obviously, in other parts of Major League Baseball, you have delays and postponements because of COVID-19. And the Philadelphia Phillies had gotten through a couple of clean tests from a player's standpoint after being around the Miami Marlins, who have had now numerous positive tests for COVID-19. Today, I believe that one member of the traveling party and one member of the coaching staff did test positive. So the Blue Jays and Phillies series is now off while they try to mitigate that. And welcome to, I hate the phrase the new normal, because that almost implies a level of acceptance. It's the way that things have to be done right now. Welcome to the current reality, in where you will have teams that are able to play 6 times in 7 days in a baseball perspective, or to use the high school parlance, so to speak, that we had from earlier today, there'll be teams that get through their schedule without a problem in the state of Indiana. I firmly believe that. And there will be teams that don't get to play anywhere close to 9 regular season games. You're going to have that in Major League Baseball. How you make up those games, good question. Do you have to play all 60? Is it going to be a percentage of games that you have to get to try to get close to 60 to qualify for the playoffs? Who knows? But that bit of news from Major League Baseball, the upcoming Blue Jays and Phillies series is off because, again, of positive tests amongst the Phillies. And at the last that I saw, it wasn't players, but it was coaching staff, traveling staff, etc. And because of that, they're going to here's another phrase that we have grown all too accustomed to. Abundance of caution. In an abundance of caution, they're not going to be playing that series that is coming up. I asked Chris Denari a question last segment, and I'm not sure that I have a good answer for it myself. You know, there was a question I didn't get to ask Jack Nolan in terms of Notre Dame and the ACC, and I'm like, you know what? I got a pretty good handle on that myself. I'll answer that myself on the air. So I asked Chris, is there a team that you're looking forward to seeing the most, not named the Indiana Pacers? And he says, simply put, it is the battle for the number 8 seed in the Western Conference. That works for me too. Again, I don't think that it is going to be, you know, maybe I'm looking for a specific team once the playoffs start. And I'll admit, I have a rooting interest that only would kick in after the Indiana Pacers were to be eliminated. And that would be for the Milwaukee Bucks. And that is twofold. One, I'm friends with George Hill. Now, I'm not going to try to play it off like we're drinking buddies and pals and we chat all the time, but since I have known George since his senior year of high school, covered his games at IUPUI, I always have a soft spot for George. But at the same time, the soft spot that I have would be for Milwaukee, thinking, this is the best team they've had in 50 years. Since they had early Kareem and since they had another Indianapolis product, pretty doggone good one, in Oscar Robertson. You know, John McLaughlin from Franklin, pretty darn good ball player on those teams as well. The Bucks were the best team in the NBA in the early 70s. A buddy of mine put together a book that basically said, and this was 10, 15 years ago he did this, and he simply said for me, this is try to say this fast, a statistical research standpoint, like margin of victory. You could argue the best team in the history of the NBA was and this is again, for say up until about 2005, was like the 1970-71 Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, how often have the Bucks had the best team in basketball since? Now, give it a couple of years after Big O retired. Give it a couple of years after they had to trade Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the Lakers in the mid-70s. Bucks had a nice run in the 80s with Sidney Moncrief and Paul Pierce. Not Paul Pierce. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Ricky Pierce is on that team. Anyway, you get the idea. But then nothing. Had like a blip with the big dog in Ray Allen. You know, 2000 nearly knocked the Pacers out of the playoffs. 2001 had a good run the next year, and then crickets. So I do tend to root for like our small market brethren. Now, not at the expense of the Indiana Pacers. If the Pacers and Bucks happen to meet, let's face it, it'd be like in the 1-4 or 1-5 second round series in the NBA. If those two teams were to play, I want the Bucks to do well, but not at the expense of the team that I follow. But I'll not lie to you. If the Pacers, if and when they get knocked out of the playoffs, my allegiance for the playoffs would likely go to Milwaukee because I would like to see the small market team do well. I'd like to see the small market team have a chance to keep their superstars. To me, maybe you think it's easier for a player to leave after you land a ring, a la Kawhi Leonard leaving Toronto for the LA Clippers. I still don't think it's harder once a team, if you have won a championship, for you to then say, you know what, hey, my contract's over, I'm going to go to a different market. And Giannis being from another country is a different cat altogether. And for the Pacers' sake, maybe it's better off if that dude does leave town and the Bucks aren't as good. But you ever been to Milwaukee? Milwaukee's a pretty cool place. So I'll answer my own question. If there's a team I'm looking forward to seeing, as long as they're not playing the blue and gold, as long as the Pacers, if their playoff run comes to an end, my allegiance is going to the Milwaukee Bucks because I want to see the small market team do well. I want to see a long-suffering fan base be rewarded for the investment of their time and their passion into following a team. Today on the program, we were joined by Jack Nolan. Notre Dame this fall will be playing in the ACC. They will be eligible for the conference championship game. They'll be playing 10 ACC games and 1 non-conference game. It will not be against Arkansas, by the way, because the SEC announced today they're going to play a 10-game schedule. They're going to wait till September the 26th, and they will move their conference championship game back 2 weeks, and they will play that on December the 19th. We were joined by Jay Jones, the commissioner of the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference. They announced earlier this week that football, volleyball, soccer will all be spring sports, and that likely basketball will be conference only and potentially starting in January. But again, that is not official. That is just a likelihood at this point, and that decision will be made over the next few days. We were joined by the commissioner of the IHSAA in Paul Neidig. Again, the IHSAA told schools they will not postpone the fall seasons, that schools at their discretion will be allowed to play this fall, knowing that practice for most sports starts next week. For girls golf, I think it starts tomorrow, but for football, it starts as of Monday. We were joined by Martin Rennie, head coach of the Indy 11. The Indy 11, fantastic against Hartford last night, and you can catch the Indy 11 on Saturday night when they play host to Sporting Kansas City 2, 7 o'clock at Lucas Oil Stadium. Mike Chappell joined us talking all things Colts football, and Chris Denari in the last segment talking about his glorious facial hair and calling games from a studio here in Indianapolis while the Pacers are in Orlando. If you missed any of it, 1075thefan.com. If you missed JMV, he's back tomorrow for a Bourbon Backyard broadcast. Have a great rest of your evening.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Kevin Harlan joins us.
When you start putting all the things in that balance, and the thing that goes on one side are pretty self-serving, right? Like the lack of discipline, leaving the bubble, causing a possible infection within a team. And then you think about things that are greater than yourself, like being a part of a team, going for a championship, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. And that's what these young minds are trying to weigh if they want to be successful.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Your Indiana Pacers are back, and it's a whole new game. Starting August 1st, catch the blue and gold as they battle for a top spot in the Eastern Conference and prepare for the playoffs.
Brogdon with a beautiful bounce pass across the lane, left to right, gobbled up by Sabonis and Dunk.
It's the game you love like you've never seen it before.
And here's Turner hammering it down.
Check out the entire schedule and how you can tune in for all the games at Pacers.com.
They're breaking all the rules at Diamonds Direct with an unprecedented store-wide sale going on now. Save 20% and more on an expanded selection. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, including trunk loads of all new designer pieces flown in from around the world.